Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados live right here on Thinking Critical YouTube. Having some fun with our friends here on a Saturday morning. Going to talk about all the things happening in comic books specifically, but we'll talk about some other things. We got the big Deadpool and Wolverine breaking records. We got other things going on. Absolute Sparrow has had a look at Absolute Batman, and he's excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Scott Snyder's super excited. He's posting all kinds of images, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. It looks I don't know if it's supposed to be serious, but it looks hilarious.
There you go. We do need to mention right at the start, a member of the family had a tragedy this week. I definitely got lots of thoughts and prayers, and if you don't have that, but you want to give good vibes out to Eric O'Sullivan, he lost his mom this week. He mentioned it on social media, so it's kind of out there. Really bad stuff. Our hearts go out to him, and definitely praying for you, brother. I'm really sorry that happened, and I can only imagine what you're going through right now as somebody that already lost his mom as well. So sorry that one happened, brother. But hopefully we can bring your spirits up with a little lively conversation around geek culture and have a little bit of fun and take your mind off some bad times, at least for a little bit. So definitely want to get that one out there. We do have returned to the channel Eric Breen, the man so cool they call him the Breen, the voice of the voiceless. How you doing, Breen?
I'm all right. Now I want to take this time to start a GoFundMe for Aaron Sparrow. I need to raise $81 or $2 so we can pay off that video game and never have to hear about it again.
Oh, the AEW video game.
I will never accept
about it for like 7 months.
I will never accept that $80 because continually mentioning it.
Well, that's Tony good because once I said it was for you, I'm not going to be able to raise it.
Yeah. So, Breen, you're not in the best of spirits. The Reds aren't doing very well, but you have found a little bit of solace in some indie books. You were praising Space Ghost there for a minute before we started.
Yeah, I've been reading that. Been reading Dick Tracy, Flash Gordon. I know there's another licensed property.
Thundercats.
I was already old when that started. Yeah. So I mean, I missed out on that. Like you
were old when the Flintstones started, to be honest.
That's why it's my avatar. and fuck you. But there's some good stuff coming out. It kind of takes the sting off of watching your team get no hit by a guy who'd never finished an 8th inning before. But yeah,
it happens. Are you reading the Ghost Machine stuff?
Yes. Yeah, and I'm not even a big fan of dystopian stuff, but I'm enjoying all of it. I think I like Redcoat a little better than the other two because of that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next wave of them. And yeah,
you're up for Hyde Street. You like a little horror?
Oh yeah, and the one with the family with the AI grandmother or whatever. That one.
That's going to be the Peter J. Tomasi stuff, I believe.
Yeah, and ready for each new Millerverse book. So there's stuff out there.
Absolutely. We're getting some good indie stuff. Actually, we're going to start covering all the indie solicits over on the Patreon, which we hadn't been doing because there just isn't a lot of stuff at Marvel and DC these days. You got to look a little harder to find the good books.
Or stop looking altogether.
Or you could stop looking altogether and blackmail yourself. But I refuse to do that. I'm still in it to win it, Breen.
You're that ray of sunshine that we all look up to.
No, the best points of that is when Wes hits the stuff that is awful and just goes nuts. Those are the best parts of the video.
Well, yeah, that happens. But for every one of those, you get a what was the one book that was good this week? Ultimate Spider-Man. It wasn't even that good. It was just kind of all right.
Actually, I liked it a lot. But
and then I think the other one I liked was Grommets. If anyone's reading that from Rick Remender and Brian Posehn. It's about 80s like skater culture in California. It's kind of funny.
Oh, I was hoping it was about Grommet from Wallace and Gromit.
No, Grommets.
They cloned a bunch of Grommets, and there's too many Grommets. Grommet.
Who else we got? Oh, sorry, Doc.
I was going to say, if you're looking for people to, or solicits to hear people shit on, you should wait for the Patreon talking about the Laura Kinney and the Psylocke book that Wes and I just recorded.
It's true. It'll be out on. It'll actually be out tomorrow, and then our review of ASM 54, which is somehow worse than that news. The entire book itself, it was awful. One of the worst books I've read. Speaking of that, Gabe, I know you weren't a big fan of ASM 54 as well. Obviously, Gabe from Comical Opinions.
Yep.
We haven't seen you in what, about a month?
It's at least maybe a little bit longer. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
but you know what?
I'm
I'm happy to be
for
here.
the best DC books. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun, and I was glad that we could do that. Let's see, how long ago was it? I don't even remember. Well, but I'm here now. Thank you for having me. Always good to be here. Reviews, and more reviews. Channels picking up. YouTube channel is picking up. We just passed 675, I think. So
Congratulations.
we're trying to get on that quick treadmill to get to 1,000, and then the sky's the limit from there. So that's great. Channel traffic is picking up. Just say website tracking is picking up now that Google has figured their nonsense out, sort of. But not
Google
really.
on F themselves?
Oh,
You can actually
man.
search for stuff and
A
find it again?
little bit.
Okay.
I mean, they're still getting all their top results from AI scrape from Reddit, which is always a bad move, but that's the way they want to do things. And just looking forward to all kinds of stuff. And I think people are trying to goad me into watching the Zack Snyder director's cut of Rebel Moon. I'm not looking forward to that, but I'll probably give it a shot just to find out if it made the first version better or worse. My smart money says it's worse, but well, I'll probably check it out and we'll see what happens from there. So yeah, all kinds of stuff happening. But again, I really want to get into the psychology of why Aaron Sparrow has a problem with bat stilts.
It looks so dumb. I don't know, man. Everything that Scott Snyder has done recently just feels like the dad that's like trying to connect with his teenage son. And look at how cool and edgy, isn't this cool? Like,
You know what it reminds me of? You ever see the original movie, The Dark Crystal?
yes.
Yeah.
And you know how the little gelflings are riding on those big white things that kind of like lope, these
Mhm.
large kind of like seal faces with these large stilt-like
Yeah.
arms. It
Yeah.
looks like that.
It looks
like that.
exactly like that. Or like I just picture him like walking like the upper body of the Cloverfield monster.
I think they were trying to go for. I think they were trying to go for that effect of what a bat looks like when it's walking, when it's got its
Yeah, no, I think
wings
that's
up
exactly
and
what
it's on its knuckles.
But it doesn't communicate any kind of fight advantage. And the idea that he has like this, I'm sure the idea is, because since we already know he's an engineer, that like, oh look, he's built his cape has all these gadgets in it and it can do all these things, and it's gonna be really stupid, like prehensile bat whips and things like that. Like you just stopped short of giving him a symbiote, is what you did.
It should be fun.
It's
But I've
creative,
noticed,
but it looks
Gabe,
goofy.
It'll be fun
Yeah.
for us.
Checking out your reviews,
Yes.
you are skipping out on more and more Marvel and DC stuff and reviewing more and more indie stuff.
I have to. Well, let's.
For your own sanity?
If we exclude the past week, because really from DC there was really only one significant
Three
title.
books, yeah.
It was 3 books, but only one of them was like mainline, which was the Absolute Power Task Force VII 7 tie-in. That was the only one they had. Now I know it's an annuals week, so that's probably typical. But yeah, I just had to pare it back because one, for my mental sanity, because some of these books are just too awful to stand. I mean, the fact that the Birds of Prey is nominated for an Eisner for an ongoing, but when you read that comic, it is pure garbage. It starts to affect you. You start to start twitching and getting all kinds of spasms. It doesn't make any sense. Plus Marvel, I have to cut that back because we have to make room because everybody wants to know about the X titles. By the way, next week, yes, is the big one. That's where Gail Simone comes out with her Uncanny X-Men #1. I'll have that in my hands probably on Monday. And so far, I am not impressed with Tom Brevoort's From the Ashes era. It seems like a lot of the same. In some cases, a lateral move. In some cases, worse. And honestly, there's more exciting stuff coming out of the indies. For example, this week we've got the next Miller World title, which is Prodigy, Slave of Mars, #1.
Yes.
So, as a matter of fact, I just got that copy from Netflix. We're on their list now. So, there are too many good indie books and too many bad big 2 books, and we just have to start balancing out what makes sense to review. Now, that's not to say we gatekeep necessarily, but just to say we have to give our attention to publishers and creators that are putting in the effort. right now, DC and Marvel, with rare exception, is not putting in any effort, and that's a shame. I'm sure we're going to talk about it here shortly.
Absolutely. I noticed Gabe was about to start bleeding out of his ears thinking about all the stuff going to Marvel and DC. So that is a frustrated man. We've also got return to the channel, Dylan. More of a Marvel week this week, more than DC, but you still like Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, the Ultimate Spider-Man was good, and that was it. This week sucked. There was nothing.
Did you read ASM 54?
No, I read Ultimate Spider-Man though. That was it. I didn't read it ASM. Yeah, I only read ASM when you have it on the subjects for what we're talking about.
Doc took that one for you. He took one for the team.
I took that.
Shout out, Doc.
Yeah, that was
Thanks
rough.
for that.
But we got the end of Blood Hunt, so I guess something.
Oh yeah, I
big
read that.
happened.
That was
That was a waste.
What was the big finale? What did it all build to?
What was
It was
that?
just a fight, and then everybody went away.
No, there's a big moment that's going to be enormous moving forward, but
Yeah,
I don't know that they needed an event to do it. It was a
this
story.
did not need to be an event. This did not
Blade
need to be a
becomes-
15 issue
Blade- what is it?
event.
Blade becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. Blade's
No,
daughter
not
becomes
Blade.
the Sorcerer Supreme. No?
Not
Oh,
Blade.
someone new becomes the...
You're acting like they treat Blade like he's important. They
Oh,
do
that's
not.
fair. That's fair. It's so funny too because you could build such a great carve out of the Marvel universe around Blade, and they just have no idea how to do it.
Yeah. That was sad with Bloodhunt, especially because in the beginning, like in the first issue when he shows up, I was like, "We're so glad you're here, Blade. This is for you. Like this is so cool." And then he just is not a big part of the event at all ever. So
Except getting killed, I guess.
yeah, his
Even
daughter's
the death
important,
was lame. Like,
Yeah.
you can't kill me. You're not fully my daughter. I've got this body. And then Miles is like, I'm your son.
though.
I'm
Him
gonna kill you."
explaining his weakness before them, though, he's like, the only person that could ever do any damage to me is my daughter, and she is not here right now. And then she shows up.
I'm here. And
was
flies out of the
so-
sky.
So stupid.
Yeah, here's everything you need to know about this week's ASM. You ready? Watch. I'm gonna demonstrate for you. I'm the Green Goblin. No, I'm the Green Goblin. No, I'm the Green Goblin. Okay.
That was great.
Sounds
They
pretty
just started
exciting.
stabbing each other with a spear, passing the Green Goblin back and forth.
Hot
And then they stop
potato.
stabbing each other, but they keep passing it back and forth. Even after they stop stabbing, it's so stupid. It is so stupid.
Very nice. So
Tag
what's
your
going on,
it.
Dylan? You got any big things coming up on the streaming or the show that people need to know about?
I just did a video talking about what the comics I think that are worth picking up each month. So go check that out if you're looking for suggestions.
Can we
and,
get a
yeah,
little
I'll-
preview for that? What are some of the big takeaways?
Ghost Machine is great, and there's a couple things at DC and Marvel that are worth checking out, but not a whole lot. But there are some things. There are some.
No Energon?
N-
Oh, you like
well,
Transformers?
well,
you only like G.I. Joe.
yeah, and the GI Joe stuff, the
Hasn't really
limited,
kicked
and then
off.
we have the new thing. So I didn't suggest anything at Energon yet, because I'm not a big Transformers guy.
Why
but
aren't
I'm
you a
hoping-
Transformers guy? When you
Because
were
I'm not-
younger, it should have been the Transformers movie. You should have been wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and been like, "Look at what Michael Bay gave me."
I mean, I liked Megan Fox, but that was kind of it. Those movies
Wow.
weren't very.
doesn't?
Outside of that, those movies weren't very appealing or very good.
They are movies that made you ask, what the hell is happening?
I remember watching the first Transformers and thinking, "Oh, that was good." And then, like 2 days later, I was at the bar drinking like some PBR with my roommate, and we started talking about it. And I was like, "Fuck me, that wasn't good, was it?"
No, they got you. They
That
got you with
story
just
is
a couple
horrible.
of things. Yeah, they
Wait a
just
minute,
got
so
you
wait-
a couple of things. They got you
wait a
with
minute,
your
so you're-
Peter Cullen.
You're saying you're not a fan of Wrecking Ball testicles?
No,
That was pretty cool, but that wasn't till later
glasses?
on.
Yeah, this is the first movie.
They didn't bring the good stuff till the later installments,
You were bedazzled by seeing the Transformers on the big screen and seeing that big action, and then once you start and hearing Peter Cullen and like I'm gonna admit that first movie, like I geeked out when Starscream was like lands and he's like the humans have taken it, and then you get that Megatron, you're an idiot, Starscream, and it's obviously not Frank Welker, but you still get that feeling, and you're like, oh yeah, these are things that I like. But once you stop and think about it afterwards, you're like, wait a minute, there's a lot in that movie that was absolute crap.
Yes.
So I got to ask, as someone who used to spend a lot of time drinking beer, too much probably, why were you drinking PBR?
Because it was $6 a pitcher at Tony's bar in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I used to
was
influence
working
a
in
lot
my
of my
budget.
decisions. So I okay.
It was cheap. it was within walking distance. That was basically the two parts of the decision. But that was my roommate and I's like local watering hole when we lived on Tejon Street in Colorado Springs. So I still like PBR. It's perfectly fine cheap beer. It's better than Ice House.
Is
I
it
don't,
though?
I don't know. I used to. No, I'm sorry. I was confusing that with Iron City.
No,
Oh.
Iron City is fucking terrible.
Yeah, but it was terribly cheap, and I used to go around with two of them in my hand. Yes, because
Yeah.
I saved
No.
going back to the cooler.
It's the same reason I
Not-
drink Busch Light from time to time.
Not
Real
as
cheap.
bad as fucking Rolling Rock. That was garbage.
Rolling Rock, I'm with you. Rolling Rock was terrible.
The rotten crotch.
Man, my mom had a cat named Rotten Crotch, but that's another story. So definitely go check out Dylan's channel if you're looking for some awesome comic books from a different perspective. Obviously, we do the best of the week, but it sounds like he's got probably a few things that we don't even talk about here on the channel. So that'll be awesome. We do have Absolute Arid Sparrow getting the word out about Kneel Before Doomface. I had a little post up there on the socials when it comes to YouTube and stuff. People are getting excited. Are you getting excited? Are you nervous?
I'm really excited. I just need a couple of the legal things to come together so that we can launch. But otherwise, like Renzo's drawn away. He's working on the page right now. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's just, we're trying to show off pages that give you like the tone of the book. There's action, there's comedy. There's a lot of, really fun stuff going on. We unveiled the Social Justice League this week. So if you guys aren't on my Twitter or Instagram, go check that out. You will see the first major obstacle that the heroes run into are not major supervillains, but the Social Justice League, who are here to check their privilege. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope people respond to it. Now you're getting to the point where it's like we're getting close to launch, and I'm like, is anyone going to care?
Hopefully, you're
I
getting
hope
the word
so.
out.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope everybody helps us get the word out, and I hope that everyone gets excited about it.
Very nice. What else has been going on in your life? You buy any toys this week? Anything cool?
Oh yeah, I'm always buying toys, man. This week I picked up a couple of GI Joes. I picked up Big Boa and the Techno Viper. I don't have enough Techno Vipers, but I will get more. I also picked up the Snow Serpent.
How many Techno
Retro.
Vipers is enough?
I'm thinking like I don't think I need more than 3 Techno Vipers. Usually I aim for 6 or more of each Cobra Combat Trooper, but your support staff I keep it to around 3 or 4.
All right. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. We were talking GI Joe figures. You got to ask those important questions, Wes.
It was important. What else did you get? Your name something else.
Oh, and then there's some new He-Man stuff out this week. There's like a Horde Prime Trooper, and there's a like Necroconda, but those are both which are also one of the Snake Men. I guess they're like undead Snake Men that are raised up to fight in their army. But they're Origins figures. They're not Masterverse, so I skipped them.
It sounded like you said Necrocondom.
Yeah, Necrocondom. So Necroconda.
Oh, I don't even know what that thing does. But, so your big problem with He-Man is the scaling isn't right. It doesn't fit out with your other toys.
Yeah, so the Origins figures are done to fit in, like if you had the original He-Man figures, they've done them all in that scale, but with additional posability. But they look like the original figures, so they have kind of the mediocre sculpting that we got back in the 80s, which was great at the time, but in retrospect, not as good.
And I don't like you calling my He-Man action figures mediocre.
Yeah, but you go and you look at the classics or the Masterverse figures, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, why am I playing with these little squat dudes when I could be playing with these kings over here?
Well, very nice. So definitely be on the lookout for Aaron. He's normally making the rounds. You're on MVP show. You're on.
I'll be on John's long box this Wednesday. I'm so Mark Miller on Monday, and then me on Wednesday. So I'll talk about your all-time classic downgrades.
What the hell does he need you for if he's got Mark?
I
Miller?
know, Mark Miller. Like, what are you talking to me?
It was like I almost canceled our recording when I had Mark Miller on. I was like, I don't need Aaron this week.
Screw you. Screw you,
Star
Sparrow.
power.
You've only been here. You've only been here supporting the channel for years now.
We've been a viable member of the team for about 4 or 5 years. Yes.
Yeah, but I understand. You gotta let me go because you got to sign that big talent.
I should have an interview with. I believe maybe I'll be able to talk to one of somebody I've wanted to talk to for a long time, Dinesh Shamdasani, but it's not set in stone yet. But I'm excited for that one. But I won't get you ready for you for Dinesh. Although Dinesh is
appreciate
huge to
that.
me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great get for you because you love Valiant. You love that era.
Absolutely. Last but not least, Doc is probably fully recovered from our conversation about the new X-Men books and ASM 54. Are you in a good mood? Your old lady won a bunch of money this weekend, so
Yeah, we yesterday was her birthday, so we went to the casino because she likes gambling periodically, and she won like $500, so that's not bad. I only lost $50, so I figure
yeah, you could probably afford to go see Deadpool and Wolverine now.
exactly.
$100
I
can get you a ticket and a bucket of popcorn.
Yeah, I know, right? No, I am not a lucky person. I consider gambling a tax on the stupid. But I will set money on fire periodically. It's only like the fourth time I've been in that casino. I'm not I prefer to, honestly, I go to the strip club over the casino, both of which I know I'm going to lose money. At least I see titties.
Yeah, but you get a
at one.
buffet at both too.
Yeah, well, and I see
Who's going to have
titties
better
at one.
crab legs?
It's
The
a
strip
question
club
of
or the casino?
who has the better titties. And I don't get those at the casino. But I'm really, really lucky when it comes to parking, though. I always get Rockstar fucking parking. So
You're
that's
that
great.
age, huh?
Oh no, dude! I have gotten Rockstar parking since I was like 17 years old. Doesn't matter where the fuck I go, I get great parking. I could show up to something with millions of people there, roll in 5 minutes before it starts, and somehow there's a spot like next to the door that's open, and I just take it.
So we're
How's
mutant
your
power.
grass? How's your lawn grass doing? Is it green?
No,
Does it look
it's
better than your neighbors.
no, not real. Well,
Ah.
it's barely, dude. It has barely rained here in like 2 months, and for Pittsburgh, that's not exactly common. Our grass doesn't really do very well on long, not quite drought, but it's been 90 degrees and not raining. It's like I feel like I've been back in goddamn LA, except for with a lot more humidity and no beach and
Very nice.
almost as retarded of laws. So yeah, it's kind of like LA, but not
Sure.
exactly. And speaking of, Aaron, I was almost going to be out your way this week, but plans changed.
Oh, bummer. That would have been fun.
Yep.
Let's give a little shout out to the Patreon backers, the new supporters of the channel. Thank you very much. If you're interested in supporting us in our mission here on Think Critical YouTube, there's a link to the video description. We got lots of podcasts featuring many of these people right here on this channel today. Thank you very much to Ash, the Deadite Slayer himself, protector of Necropolis. Thank you very much to Jose Avila, Pluma Ponderosa, the keeper of Skyward Keep, and welcome back, Alexander, the spatial surfer himself, the protector of the multiverse's integrity, and welcome Jarwar, Alpha Strike himself, protector of Champions Keep, and thank you very much to Long Box of Doom, the archivist, protector of Comic Chronicle, who actually upgraded his plan on Think Critical Patreon the way that he's backing us. Really appreciate that. Like I said, there's a link in the video description. We do have a few people to talk to that have generously donated to the channel. Caleb says, I don't care about Doom's casting. It feels more like a pitch for another What If episode, and it's lazy. And these Rick and Morty people have to go. Well, it sounds like the Rick and Morty people are gone. They brought back the writers that were working with the Russo brothers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought back
seems
one
like-
of them.
Yeah, they only did bring back one. But
It's a
I mean,
start.
we did get rid of your Michael Waldrons and your Jeff, what's his names that that were right that wrote Ant-Man.
In the credits, it actually just says Jeff. What's his name? They don't even bother to notice who the fuck these people are.
All right, Dylan, you are a younger person here. You probably invested somewhat into the MCU. What do you think about Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doom?
It seems like the panic button, like they broke the glass and are just like, this is what we
Yeah.
gotta do. We gotta bring back what worked before, and there's no thought behind it. It's really dumb to do this without an established Doom. If you had an established Doom, I could see this being all okay, but not even having an established Doom in this universe, and the first one we're gonna get is a Tony Stark variant, is really dumb, especially because RDJ ain't in it for the long haul. He's gonna be here for like 2 movies and bounce. This is really dumb. It gets buzz.
Am I the only one that thinks this is going to work?
Look,
There's-
Am I crazy?
hold on. I'm, you know what? For as much of a skeptic as I am on most things, this one is one where I'm like, all right, well, you know what? I can think of a lot worse ideas. I can think of about a half dozen ways that they can make this work. I don't know whether they will, but I can think of a number of ways that they can. So I'm not. I don't entirely hate this. Yes, it is panic. It is absolutely, and I don't think acknowledging that this is them, breaking glass in case of emergency is an unrealistic, or I don't think that is in any way in doubt at this point. It's obvious that that's what was happening. That being said, can it still work? Yeah, it can work. I can think of a dozen ways for it to work.
I'm still apathetic about it. I think it definitely can work. I think there might be some bait and switch involved. I think they might be bringing him back in as Iron Man, and this is a smokescreen, and he will be a variant Doom, but we'll also have a real Doom. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways that you can go. So just the casting announcement isn't that exciting to me. I don't really care. But and we all understand that it is absolutely desperation. They need some good press. They needed to try to generate some excitement somehow. I don't think it's quite worked out the way that they hoped. I mean, obviously in Hall H, people were excited, but people in Hall H will clap for anything. That's why they're there. Is just to be excited about things and then get ready to consume the next thing. Those are the kinds of people that stand in line for Hall H. So I don't think it's a good barometer for the way that the public in general feels. It did get some press out there. It got some people talking. Obviously, we're talking about it. But you can go a couple of different ways. RDJ is a good actor. He could come in and he could not play Tony Stark. He could be playing Victor Von Doom. You could put him under prosthetics. You could put the mask on him and keep it on him, and then also have him in the movie as Iron Man, so that therefore, you get the mask off moments, because they're going to want that for his star power. And you could bring in another Doom. I was seeing some rumors that they were like, oh, Viggo Mortensen is going to play the real Dr. Doom. And I was like, that'd be cool casting, but it seems like Viggo Mortensen intentionally avoids these sorts of films. So I don't know if that's true either.
Next up, Callan says, I've only heard bad things about J.J. Abrams' Cape Crusader, other than it's boring and gay, and Abrams must have a hatred for redheads.
Well,
anybody watching Cape Crusader?
I saw the first episode.
Well, what's your feel?
It was okay. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't good either. I really like the art style, though, especially with a lot of these shows going for that CG style. I like the art style for it. It looks good, but Batman felt kind of like a backup character in his own show in the first episode. Again, I've only seen the first episode, so I don't know how the rest is, but it was okay. It was just, I didn't feel too strongly.
Of course, he's going to be a backup character. He's a white character, and as J.J. Abrams said, we need to eliminate white comfort. So what you got to do is you got to push forward. All your brave women of color.
It was very diversified for a show that's in the 40s, which felt weird that you go backwards and it's I don't know if they were a fan of a lot of this stuff back then, but they're going. No, for it.
It's the reason. It's the reason why they race swap, people in biopics. None of that makes any goddamn sense. It's slapping modern progressivism onto history and trying to, I don't know, retro woke the world. But look, J.J. Abrams, for a guy that thinks we need to get rid of white comfort, why doesn't he give away his money?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And his jobs. Maybe he should go just voluntarily live in one of those homeless encampments in LA. There's a lot of them. He can go right there. I mean, we'll even let him keep enough to get a tent.
It never applies to them, Doc, because they're allies and therefore they're above it all. They're the ones that are they're the ones that are sheltering all the poor marginalized people, with their power and they're the good ones.
The margarine people. Yeah.
Well, isn't that what's happening with the absolute Batman? They're stripping him down to not a billionaire, some kind of engineer.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of basic bitch kind of decisions. It always is. It's what's the opposite? How do we subvert expectations? What do we know about Batman? Well, he's rich, so we won't be rich. Oh, he's he's this. Well, he won't be this. We'll just go in the opposite direction. What is
it sounds like they made him John Henry Irons.
Yeah, what is Superman? He's the son of Jor-El, and Jor-El was this major scientist on Krypton. Well, let's just make I don't know. Let's say that Jor-El worked at the DMV. Those are the kind of decisions that go into these things, because all they can do is like go, well, what's the opposite of what's there, instead of how do we take what's there and build something new and interesting out of it.
Very nice. Next up, Lade says, I talked to Dolan this week. Aaron West, you guys were not brave enough to finish The Acolyte. I was. I manned up to see the whole goddamn thing. 5 out of 10.
Ooh. I'm glad you're still with us.
This was enough. I ended it on a high note. That was literally as good as The Acolyte was going to get. I could tell.
Yeah, all the characters that I didn't care about got brutally murdered, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool."
There's a couple of cool moments there too, when he's impaled the one Jedi and then force pulls the next Jedi on top of it. It was neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did watch it all the way through to the end. I can honestly say it gets worse, not better, as the season progresses.
I just skipped it because
just stupid.
That's the smart thing to do whenever you don't like things anymore.
You don't even like Star Wars, Doc.
I liked Star Wars just fine. I went and, I was one of those idiots that in '99 went to watch a fucking, skipped school to go and stand in line and catch the 5 a.m. show. That's when our theater did their first showing of episode 1. So I was one of those fucking idiots, but and I wasn't terribly impressed by any of the prequels. The second one wasn't bad. No, the third one. Third one wasn't bad. Yeah, it was the third one.
The second one, if you ignore the love story, like I like all the Obi-Wan, Jango Fett, Geonosis stuff.
Yeah,
it's just the love story was so bad.
It's awful.
And
Obi-Wan being a detective is pretty cool in that movie, though. But the love story is abysmal.
So I like it just fine.
But no, we got to review episode 2 now. Sorry.
No. I do appreciate what Lane's saying here, but we are getting a little too sidetracked. Cal, penguins a drag joke. All women are gay, as usual, because no men, and I'm done with DC and superhero movies. I'm assuming this is the Cape Crusader.
Yeah, they gender swap Penguin, and there are
Walda.
It was Walda, and there's at least one openly gay lesbian romance situation going on there. I forget which of the two characters. I think one of them is Montoya.
Yeah, it's Montoya and Harley.
Yeah.
I didn't get to that episode, but I saw that bit on Twitter.
Harley can't be straight in any multiverse, can she now?
I do have a question for those of you that watched it. How is that even remotely human proportion for Montoya? Like the art on that is just so abysmal. I'm like, that doesn't even look like a human being. Not
so
even
wide.
She swallowed Harvey Bullock is what happened.
She looks like one of she looks like one of those Russian nesting dolls.
She looks like there's she's wearing like a fucking mech armor under her coat, and it's just like it's like another person hidden underneath there.
It's Bullock under there. It's a midget on his shoulders.
Yeah. No, Doc. Art is subjective.
Her head is too small.
No, there's
also,
people out there with small heads.
Again, it's set in the 40s. Why are so many people fat?
Yes,
it's a good point.
Probably fat people in the 40s.
There weren't a lot of them because our diets, like our FDA wasn't poisoning us.
Our food was actually food, and also
all right, fellas,
died of
I
heart
appreciate
disease.
the witty back and forth, but can we not go so far off subject on all of these? Can we actually get to the topics?
No.
You're going to make us talk about Deadpool Wolverine, and we don't want to.
Okay. Well, never mind. We'll get there when we get there. Zach showed a disturbing video of T. Franklin promoting vodka weed and probably faking her disability, saying something about it to get over her dead son.
Yeah,
she had a son.
So bussin'.
He passed away a long time ago. Sad.
I didn't think that it was vodka weed. I thought it was like weed
soda
or something.
Water or something.
Yeah. So, but regardless, I mean, look, I am just going to say, I hope she gets whatever help she needs. Please go get help, lady. You have issues, obviously, a lot of them.
Yeah. I used to cover some of her social media stuff, but at some point you're just like, I don't want to do it. It just feels bad.
Yeah,
Lady's got some.
this is just a very mentally disturbed person and should just probably, be left alone.
Yeah. Lade says, any October solicits you guys are excited about? So I did the solicits for October for DC and Marvel.
I'm
Green
excited.
Lantern.
I'm excited for Oktoberfest.
Yeah, but come on, man.
Lemire on JSA.
Phil Kennedy Johnson and Javier or Leandro Fernandez, I think is going to be got. Green Arrow from Chris Condon and Montos, I think is going to be good. Those are some of the ones that stood out for me. You got any other ones there? Anybody?
Sam
Lemire on
Adams.
JSA. Lemire on JSA. That's gonna be
Jeff
pretty
Lemire
good.
on JSA, and he's also got
Everything
Absolute
from
Flash.
Lemire.
But I
And
don't know if
his,
that comes out in October.
I don't know when his Batman and Robin book comes out, but I'm excited for that. He's trying to tell an actual Jason Todd Robin story, so that's got me excited.
He's got a
I mean, the
Batman and
problem-
Robin book?
I don't
Yeah.
know when it comes out, but yeah,
I thought
we
he only
gotta-
did Robin and Batman.
he did, but he's doing like a sequel to it with
Oh, okay.
Jason Todd because he's like Jason Todd didn't do anything but die as Robin, so he wanted to tell a Jason Todd Robin story. So I'm
I mean, the
excited
big
for that.
the big problem with the DC solicits is that for all the good things, you've got 3 bad things to back it up.
Well, that's true.
Well,
Tom
that's
King-
the
Tom
really
King
big
is
problem
still-
is that you
Well,
don't
yeah, Tom
have
King
any.
is still on Wonder Woman. Cy Spurrier is still on Flash. You've got Romby sticking around doing
Chip's
New
still on
Gods of all
Batman.
things.
You don't have any momentum to the universe. So even if you get a good book here and there, it doesn't keep you invested. You know that's not going to last. So there's kind of like not a lot of point in investing in any of these things anymore, because if you just want to read one good comic a month, you can certainly do that. But I think that, the thing about the industry is you used to get pulled into the whole universe. You used to get pulled into the lore of these worlds, and you kind of wanted to know how everything interconnected. And they've lost that. They've lost that with a lot of terrible creators doing terrible runs on terrible books.
Well, I'm excited for Tom Taylor to get off Nightwing, and I hope Dan Waters does good. So that's something that's got me
Yeah.
optimistic.
Dexter
So-
Sawyer
Yeah,
will be
but-
good.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then they're
that's
putting
so
Tom
cool.
Taylor on Detective.
Yeah,
I like Nightwing more than Batman.
Ugh.
Yeah, you can
Same.
ignore it. You can ignore it. I mean, Ram V's proven that. Like, just
Oh
ignore
my
it.
god.
Absolutely.
They put
Lady-
Rico Tamako on Detective. Come on, or Tamaki on Detective. Come on, you can just ignore
Yeah.
that book.
Lady Larcanically, Raven eats emotions. Could we see here in the Green Lantern with the Skittles Corps? Now, this is a good question, Aaron. Obviously, you are a bona fide writer and a professional editor. Now, I know Raven is mostly portrayed as a good guy. She's got a heel turn going on very slowly in Titans right now. That could actually be interesting.
Yeah, and if it's in the hands of Jeremy Adams, I think it will be interesting.
Well, I don't think they're going to do it, but I think there's a story there where you could have Raven lose it, like what's kind of going now, but then she goes after the emotional spectrum to
Yeah,
get
that
more
would be-
power.
That could be really cool. You could really turn that into something. Will DC do it? Probably not.
I just love that we're calling it the Skittles Corps now. I love it. That's now the name for
The
this
emotional spectrum.
this retarded multicolor rainbow lanterns. There's only
Taste
the
one
rainbow.
lantern
Jose
that's
Davies.
green.
You guys need to check out House of the Dragon if you haven't. More dragons this season. Finally, Dragon Bites. I fell asleep on the Acolyte. So I watched House of the Dragon season 1, but the max version that we get here was so light on content that was actually worth watching. I just got rid of it because there was nothing good there. So I haven't got to see season 2. Was it really that good?
It's all right. It's kind of become like The Walking Dead. There's like 3 episodes you can check out. You can skip everything else, and you will not miss anything. It's just the same stuff every single episode with nothing progressing until you get to a certain episode. They're like, all right, now we're going to progress it, which really doesn't make any sense because it's an 8-episode season. So I don't know why they're dilly-dallying so much, but it's all right. The last episode was really good. I enjoyed it.
You like the dragon fights?
Dragon fights are cool. We've had 1 episode with dragon fights, but it was cool. Now we're on to the finale this Sunday. And then we got to wait like 3 years till season 3.
Probably. But at least you'll get Rings of Power season 2 in the meantime.
Yeah. And then George R.R. Martin just came out and there's like freaking 8 shows in development for Game of Thrones. I think 4 of them are animated. So that should be interesting. I'm interested to see animated Game of Thrones stuff. Could be cool.
Yeah, could see some anime porn.
Is that
I'm sorry.
your thing?
What?
I mean, that's what House of the Dragon is essentially. It's just what did what did Ian McShane call it? Somebody asked him a question about his character on there, and he's like, "I don't really care to talk about your little tits and dragon show."
That was a good comment. I haven't watched the second season, so I'm assuming there's more sex now. Like in
Not really, actually. This season there's less. I'd say this
Oh.
season is probably the least out of all of them.
I
it's
did
like
see
the first
some.
three seasons of
some
Game of
smooching.
Thrones was lots of stuff, and then they kind of toned it down.
Yeah, this season there's like some kissing, and that's kind of it. I can't even think of any sex scenes that maybe like one that's happened this season.
There was some article that like some dude's walking around with a full erection and in like full view of the of everything, and I was like,
I think you
No.
were reading an article about the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, actually.
oh, I might have been, yeah. That
Yeah, you might have been getting those confused. Adam Frey, if you make the Penguin a woman, she needs to be a Catholic nun instead of a gangster. Catholic here, I can say that.
That's a take.
I hear that
That
Minnie
would-
Driver did the voice. Good to see Minnie Driver getting some work. I like her.
I think that would have been more interesting. They called her
Yeah.
like the Blues Brothers. They call her the Penguin, right? So you could have riffed on that to say, well, she's a penguin because she dresses with the full habit and everything else, but she's secretly a crime lord. And now, see, that's I find kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than Tom King's take. He's the Penguin because he humps them.
Ugh.
Remember that?
Why is Tom King such a degenerate?
Yeah, yeah.
Penguin humper.
Penguin loves his penguins, literally. So, nice.
Brad Frederick says, I was excited for Absolute Flash, but he said it was going to be a horror sci-fi book, so I'm a little reluctant. I could see that because the current Flash book is a horror sci-fi book from Cy Spurrier, but I imagine Jeff Lemire will do it at a level incomprehensible by Cy Spurrier and unachievable by him. So hopefully he does it right.
We saw that art and we speculated there was going to be some body horror because it looks like there's like blood all over the cover. Like the Speed Force probably has something to do with his blood. So probably something along there.
I'm definitely going to check it out. I'm excited. Jeff Lemire, it's Absolute Universe. I'm hoping that's good. I'm very, very hesitant on Superman and Batman especially. So I'm hoping for something good from Green Lantern and Flash. We'll see. Tommy reviews. Hail to comics aficionados. Aaron, are you getting SS86 Optimus Prime? It looks like a gorgeous fig. Also, DC announced a lot of collected editions, which I'm highly excited to snag. The Authority Omnis Volumes 1 and 2.
I'm definitely getting that Prime. That Prime looks great.
Are you going to do the voice while you're playing with it?
Yeah, I'm going to take it out of the box and I'm going to say, freedom is the right of all sentient beings.
Do you play with your toys, or you just like set them up and look at them and admire?
I set them up and look at them. Like, I mean, I guess if you consider like sitting on the couch and watching a movie and like moving their arms and legs around and like putting them in different poses while I'm, just something to fiddle with. If you consider that playing, then I play with them. But like, I don't like set them all up and then act out scenarios and go pew pew and like,
You don't replay the battle at Helm's Deep, but this time with robots defending the fortress.
I do not. It's like now Superman's gonna punch He-Man through Castle Grayskull. Like I don't do that. Although it sounds amazing. Like maybe I should.
So Dylan, you were nodding your head there. Were there any other DC collections that you're excited about? That you're looking
Yeah,
forward to?
we're getting book 2 of the Kurt Busiek Superman collection because book 1 just came out like a month ago. Book 2 of that comes out next year. We got Philip Kennedy Johnson's run on Superman is getting collected in Omnibus next
Warworld?
year. Yeah. Well, like the entirety of his run, I think even with like the little bit before and like the tiny bit he was on Superman, not just Action Comics. I think they're like putting it all together. So that's cool. And there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff.
The problem with the Busiek thing is you're going to get half of the Superman Up and Away story, not the other half.
I think that was that already collected in the first one? No. Yeah, it was half of it. I think was collected in the first one. I think they already did part of it in the first one.
Right?
Yeah.
You won't get the Jeff Johns half that's finishes off maybe the best modern Superman story.
Yeah. So it's kind of
That's
weird
the
how
problem. They
did
got to
it.
put Up and Away back into circulation. Why have they? Why is it
I
not
completely agree. It should get. I wish they would do an absolute edition. I would love that. If they did an absolute edition, that would be so cool. Man.
Yeah. Definitely will be looking out for that. And Aaron definitely plays with his toys. He loves Optimus. Retro Man. Hey, Wes, if you don't want to support Mark Waid, you could always pirate. Also, Al Ewing doesn't excite me. Immortal Thor is so boring. Immortal Thor is so boring, but I do think that Green Lantern plays way more into his wheelhouse than Thor. Although Thor certainly has a lot of cosmic and stuff, but you also got a lot of lore and things added to it. As far as you could just pirate Mark Waid, I don't want to acknowledge that he exists for the most part, and so I'm just going to ignore it. What do you think, Breen? Is that a stance worth taking?
I gotta agree with that. I don't want to pirate his stuff either.
He's not worth pirating at this point.
Relegate him to the dustbin of history.
Say that like Optimus Prime.
Relegate Mark Waid to the dustbin of history.
Thank you.
But piracy is a big thing out there, but screw that guy. He's not even worth it. Finally, and thank you very much to Dion. Looks like we got somebody in Europe supporting the channel. Really appreciate that. Looks to be a fan of The Dark Knight. Nice little silhouette there, avatar. Now let's get into the good stuff, or what could be the good stuff. We do have Marvel doing what they always do. And Breen, you're probably not really into Deadpool and Wolverine. Maybe you're into Deadpool. But how many characters have they replaced with like their daughter or a female version of the character at this point? Is it just like Infinity?
And beyond. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it take less time to just list the ones that haven't been at this point? I mean, I heard what Doc said, and it's we're all saying the same thing. Yeah, I've always believed that people that read comics will go to see the comic book movies. The people that go to see the comic book movies aren't necessarily going to become comic book fans, because if you start off with live action, how's the printed page ever going to measure up? But on the off chance that someone does, and they come to the store and the latest issue has a teenage girl, I don't have to specify a title. They usually all do after the movie comes out. And it's not that big a deal, because they can go show them the 40 years of back issues or 30, whatever. But it doesn't make any sense. It's at least the timing. Because I did the same thing with Doctor Strange when his movie came out, and wasn't Kevin Feige supposed to be in charge of all of it now?
Yeah, but that was always a joke that he was going to be overseeing and there was going to be synergy. He can't even keep a handle on the movies and the TV shows, so there's no way he's taking any time to look.
But shouldn't you make it look like he is, even if he's not actually doing it? I mean, I realize nobody cares there, and
look, Bob Iger comes out all the time and talks about all these things that Disney's doing, and it's all lies. So it's like nobody's really like overseeing anything. They just come out and they tout, these different successes that are, pretty disprovable. But it just everybody's asleep at the wheel. Everybody has risen to the level of their incompetence within that company. Within the entire Disney structure, Bob Iger is an incompetent CEO. His executives are incompetent. Kathleen Kennedy is incompetent. Kevin Feige, without any kind of creative people to really lean on to tell him what to do and what will work, is incompetent. Marvel, Tom Brevoort, C.B. Cebulski, incompetent. All of these people are beyond the scope of what they are able to do, and it's just a cascading failure. When you've been in enough businesses and enough American businesses, and you've worked for enough corporations, you start to realize that these companies make money just because of a certain amount of momentum, but they're dragged down by so many idiots within their structure that the economy could be booming. We could have a golden age if we just stopped promoting people beyond the level of their effectiveness.
I was going to say that also, getting back to the girl pool, I realized that once they made the decision to kick the boys out of a boys' hobby, that this was obviously going to happen. I mean, I suffered through that 5th issue of Blood Hunt that Wes sent over, and of course, the person that gets the big scene at the penultimate moment is the purple-haired, shaved head girl, and I realized that truly is all they care about. Everything else is just there, but
well. I think that you can look at this is there's been an obvious attempt, and at this point they're not even hiding it. They will make new versions when the old version doesn't get over. they'll just do another and another and another and another, and they will keep throwing it at the wall until it sticks, even though there is zero evidence that there will ever stick because it has never stuck. They'll keep doing it, and they're not going to stop because you don't have people in there that are creative or business people anymore. You just have idealists that, well, we should have all these, so we're just going to keep doing it. And do
A lot of
it.
idealists that don't ever live up to their own ideals.
Oh,
as we're
well,
seeing,
obviously.
as we're seeing with
Almost
every male
almost-
feminist in the industry, every big
Well,
male
that's
feminist.
that's why when the question came up earlier asking about the solicits and people are asking, what are you excited for? What are you looking forward to? The level of excitement just kind of hits at this mediocre level and just sort of stays there because it's the same people. It's the same creators, it's the same editors, it's the same executives in charge. And if you are thoroughly dissatisfied with, say, Marvel and DC over the, what they've been pumping out over, say, the last few years, well, guess what? The same people are still in charge. So regardless of what's on the solicits, regardless of whatever alternate universe you come up with, whether it's absolute or ultimates, whatever else, you still have the same boneheads making the same boneheaded decisions. That's not going to change. And it's never going to change as long as those people remain in the position that they have. So if you really want to see, I want to see DC turn around, that's fantastic. Everybody wants that. It's not going to happen as long as Jim Lee's still there doing what he's doing in exactly the same way he's doing it.
So I was saying that I think the absolute universe is going to end up being an absolute train wreck. I said I think it's going to be a laughable train wreck. I think it's going to be meme worthy. Just the stuff that's been shown off so far, I think looks hilarious. I think we're all going to get a lot of mileage out of making fun of it.
Yeah.
And so we also look at Larry's Comics disagreed with me, and he said, "No, the creative teams are rock solid." And I was like, "Are they?" Some of the art teams are rock solid, but Scott Snyder, very hit and miss, very hit and miss. Tom Taylor, boring. You can move Tom Taylor from one boring title over to another title that he'll make boring. Not rock solid.
We saw that absolute.
Jason, yeah.
No, we're talking about we're talking
about moving the chairs around on the Titanic. Jason Aaron, not rock solid, not a rock solid creator. Very hit and miss, and a lot of times miss, in a big way. Punisher, Avengers, it's his best years are behind him, it seems. So these teams are not rock solid, and I don't think you're going to get rock solid ideas. I think you're going to get a lot of 2016 ideas incorporated into these these mythos, and I don't think it's going to fly.
So that brings us back on topic. Is it applies exactly the same way for Marvel? Cebulski, Brevoort, all these other teams that are being brought to bear to kind of redo from the ashes, to redo these titles, to take advantage of what's trending in popular culture. In this case, it just so happens to be Deadpool because the movie's a hit. Where the critical reviews aside, it's a hit. It's making a lot of money. That's a hit. You should be capitalizing on it. And what do? They do this.
Well, because
Girl Pool, you get Spider Girl, you get variants, not the characters that you see, and it's the same executives making the same bad decisions, and you're never going to change that as long as you have those people still in their place.
Well, the reason why is because they believe that they are capitalizing. This is the stuff they want to do because they want to do it for whatever idiotic, retarded reason they want to do it. It's what they want to do. They're looking at these successes in other medias like Deadpool right now and drawing interest to the character as their way to make the thing that's failed to the comic audience maybe succeed to the normie audience. They've been doing it for 12 years. They did it with Avengers. It was back then. They were doing this exact same thing. We have an idea. We want to get rid of all these old characters and replace them with our, modern day dollar store fucking knockoff versions. And we're going to keep doing it. So whenever something has success, they are capitalizing on it in their mind. Because they now have new eyes on the thing that got rejected, on the idea that got rejected. And maybe this time with this other audience, it'll get
and let's be honest,
accepted.
even if they did say, hey, this Deadpool movie is huge, we need a Deadpool series, they're just going to put Alyssa Wong or Kelly Thompson or somebody on it. Well, it's not Kelly Thompson because I think she's persona non grata at Marvel. But, they're just going to put somebody on it who's a hack, who's not going to do a good job anyway. And it's not going to connect with anybody who comes in. And we've already proven time and time again that these movies don't drive people to the comic book store in any substantial numbers. And even if they did, the comic industry has no idea how to capitalize on it.
But the truth of that statement, which is also the irony of the situation, is there is a Deadpool series out right now written by Cody Ziegler, and it's not good. It is not good at all.
Well, like I said, you're going to put a hack on it. You're going to have a hack on it.
Because he built upon Alyssa Wong's series, which was the run right before it, which was terrible. And so part of it is, you have terrible creators. There's always going to be terrible creators. The problem is, in the right way, you don't have editors who are gatekeeping those terrible creators out and making sure that what comes out is the best possible product, because that's exactly what it is. It's product. I know they hate that term, but that's exactly what it is. It's product. And you have to make sure you have to put the best creators that you can find on there. And they're not doing that. The editors are just sort of like, broken dams that are just letting anything through. And as long as you have those people who have the authority to stop that garbage from getting out, not doing their job, nothing's going to change, regardless of who you tap to put on what book.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
They've been rearranged, but the thing is, what can they do? Everybody that's any good left, anybody that's any good currently that's not in the industry won't take the pittance that they're being paid. So the only thing the only talent pool you have available, doesn't matter if it's writer, artist, editor in chief, is people that can't get jobs elsewhere or that want to be in said industry in order to utilize it as in their platform for activism. Those are the only two types of people you get. If you were good, you'd be working in an industry that pays you. And if you want to just push social change, and for some inexplicable reason you decide that this is a form of pop culture,
Deadpool a girl push social change.
It's the same. It's not Deadpool a girl. It's we will replace all of the characters with because they don't care which one of them hits. They just want one of them to. They've been doing it for 12 years. Every single character. It's not that they need a replacement. They didn't need a black female replacement for Tony Stark. They needed a female replacement for a character. It was just Tony Stark that got picked. The same way that this time around, it's just Deadpool that got picked. This is the same reason why they're now trying, another Spider-Girl. It's the same plan. It's not on a specific character. The specific character doesn't matter. That's just the point of attack.
The Spider-Girl thing doesn't make any sense because they had a Spider-Girl that everyone liked. Her name was Mayday.
Yeah.
And Dane Slott literally is the dude that put the final nail in the coffin of that character. So she literally couldn't come back, and now he's coming back with Spider-Girl because literally he's got nothing else. He can only do Spider-Verse variant characters now.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The reason why he's doing this Spider-Girl is because the old Spider-Girl had a connection, and you had to have a married Peter and MJ for that Spider-Girl to exist.
Bingo.
Listen, Marvel is not going to get any better until they discover a way. CB Cebulski is not going to try to make Marvel any better until someone convinces him that Marvel being successful is going to help him find the perfect bow bun. That's all that guy cares about. Tom Brevoort checked out long ago. It's like, Gabe, you were saying that the From the Ashes, hasn't been good, and in a lot of ways it's been worse. What a surprise that the guy who's never had any interest in the X-Men didn't want to go over there and do it and was forced to is just phoning it in. The guy who's been phoning it in for the last decade at least is now also phoning it in on a thing that he doesn't even like. What a shock.
Yeah. Well, but Doc also hit on the point earlier, which is, pardon me, I believe also true is I continually harp on, you got to change the leadership. Nothing's ever going to get better until you change the leadership. And that includes the editors and on up. But the second piece of that is you need the money. If you want to get the top tier talent, you've got to pay the top tier prices. Now, to my mind, it is beyond baffling that Marvel and DC somehow are poor mouthing that they can't afford the top tier creators. That is ridiculous. If anybody can, you have an ex-football player out right now crowing about how he has $4 million to start an AI comic book company, and everybody is battering the hell out of him on social media because of it. If he can scrounge up $4 million to start something from fresh, Marvel and DC, who are both backed by mega corporations, can certainly spare that much, if not a heck of a lot more, to afford the talent. They're just not willing to put in the work to get it. Now, sometimes I know what budgets are like. Sometimes you got to make that fight. You've got to say, I need that money, and you've got to make that case, and you've got to put in that effort. But until you have leadership that is willing to kind of change their ways, or ideally wipe them all out, and then leadership not only who is willing to do the best quality work, but also to fight for those dollars to make sure that they pay their creators fairly and adequately in terms of things like royalties and whatnot, it's always going to be a mediocre joke show.
The simplest way to get there is cut the line. Cut the line, get rid of these mediocre titles, and put money into your major titles with better creators. And there's good creators out there that are mid-tier. You know, the fact that Robert Venditti is not working on anything, major right now. The fact that, you've got, like, DC's obviously got Josh Williamson, but he's clearly not exclusive because he's also working for Skybound. He's a mid-tier creator that could come in and do something. You could get Jeremy Adams to come in and do something. Guys who haven't really hit their, even hit their stride or maybe even their potential yet, but are
Tony
recognized.
Feeks, Ryan Parrott. There's a lot of good writers out there.
There's a lot of good people that you could bring in that haven't hit yet, and you could get them at a decent price and help build them up. But, we learned a long time ago, Marvel is scared to build up talent because then the talent leaves. But that's just the continual churn. There's always people coming up who you can hire and who you can bring in. I mean, I could rattle off a bunch of talented people that I've worked with that'll never get the shot at Marvel and DC. And the reason is because people don't like their politics. They don't like the fact that they don't, adhere to the same cultish mindset of the people that are in charge. And until you clean that up in the industry, until you do a complete flush of these companies from the top down, and you get out these activists and you get out these political idiots like Mark Wade, who would rather see the industry burn to the ground than work with anybody who disagrees with him politically. He said that until you get rid of that mindset, you're never gonna recover.
And that's why the sort of rise in popularity of these indie comics are really bearing out. It's because a lot of these creators who do have the talent, who do have the passion for the material, they're writing the comics that they want to write. They're telling the stories they want to tell, and it shows. Take Jim Zub doing a fantastic job on Conan. Now take that same sort of vibe and mentality, put him on Wolverine. That's a match right there. You take Jeremy Adams, who does great with family relationships, and then you put him over on something like, say, the Fantastic Four. He would nail that atmosphere. Take Daniel Warren Johnson, who is killing it on Transformers, and then put him on a different team book, something like, I don't know, for example, X-Force. Put him on X-Force. Now that's a match right there that I would love to see. They're out there. They're just not getting the work, and they're not getting the work because the people who are making decisions are idiots.
Well, they're all the people making the decisions. This is their belief system. They have. It's not about telling adventure stories anymore. It's about getting out the message. And to get out the message, you need a delivery system. Well, Alyssa Wong's and Vita Ayala's and Pika Stephanie's, they are a cheap way of delivering the message. That's all they want. If Marvel wanted to make money overnight or within 2 or 3 months, since they're already paying him not to write, how about an Uncanny X-Men with whatever's left of Chris Claremont for a year or 2? Peter and Mary Jane are married again. An Amazing Spider-Man. Captain Marvel wakes up one morning and puts on her Ms. Marvel suit. There's 3 things right there. None of those will ever happen because that would appeal to the wrong fans, and they don't want those. They're willing to. They
found out this appeals to no fans.
They'll take no fans over
one needle
exactly.
by replacing Tony Stark with a female version. They didn't move a single needle by replacing Doctor Strange with a female version. They're not going to move a needle by making Girlpool or Ellie the new Deadpool.
They're looking. I think they're looking at it like infinite monkeys and infinite typewriters. Eventually, the law of inevitability says that it'll work sometime. Doesn't matter. They'll be down to 7 readers by the time it
worked
happens.
once with Jane Foster for like a 6 month or I guess more like a 12 to 18 month period. People liked it.
But my point is they want to do that. They want it to be a repeatable.
Well, the reason it worked is because you
gimmick.
expected Thor to come back.
Yes.
And
The
then when
same-
they realized he wasn't, they're like, oh, never mind.
The same reason why that's why he suddenly became Odin's son. He didn't even, because apparently when you lose your job, you lose your name. So
So it's always happened to me.
yep, you just have to find a new name. Like somebody else. What's your position, Joe? What? That's not a job title. That's a name. It's Joe now. That's the job. What? It doesn't even. It's fucking retarded. But no, they're just going to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. I don't know why.
It's always just like timed the worst. Obviously, they did the Doctor Strange thing when the Doctor Strange movie was out. They did the Tony Stark one when he's the most popular superhero in the world. They're doing Deadpool as soon as Deadpool and Wolverine is breaking records. So it's like, can you not see this pattern playing out? Like, you just have to put out a Deadpool book by a decent writer with some cool art on it, and people will probably come check it out. It's so like,
and just watch the money flow in. Yes,
Yeah.
we know this. Everyone with 2 firing neurons knows this, except for the idiots. Because again, we come back to this is what they want to do. They want, for some inexplicable reason, they want to replace the audience and the heroes. And honestly, I'm leaning more towards the fact that they think that replacing the heroes is their mechanism to remove the audience, the audience that they dislike. It's just a means to an end. I'm not even sure if they actually care about getting these the diversity bingo versions of these characters over, just as long as it pushes existing readers out.
but they already did that. That's why everything's a collectible now. It's not even a comic book to read for the most part.
When I was writing Death Rage with Murphy, well, some of the compliments that we got continually in reviews and people that would come up at shows that had read it would say, like, this is more Deadpool than Deadpool. You know, why aren't you guys working on a Deadpool book? And it was like, well, we'll never get hired at Marvel. And honestly, why would we want to?
Well, you got nothing on Cody Ziegler.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, Cody Ziegler is one of those people where it's like you can't judge a book by its cover, but you can look at the author on the book jacket and pretty much make a determination.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's just they have an idea here. They've convinced themselves their idea is right, and they will keep doing it forever until they're proven right.
They will go down on this ship because it doesn't matter. They don't own any of this. They're not invested in it. They're only invested in their activism and the chance that maybe this could lead, you know, the idea was that they would get in and they would, you know, somehow get into Hollywood and you know, be able to take their activism there. And now that the Hollywood is completely on fire and collapsing and comics is all that they have left, and they've shrunk the comic industry down to a point where there's not enough work for all these people anymore. We're in an entertainment apocalypse right now.
That's why everyone lost their mind, is because there's not enough work out there. Like, oh my goodness, there's $4 million coming into comic books. They're not going to hire creators. They're going to use the AI.
AI is coming, whether you like it or not.
Oh,
You know, in the word Macho Man, you may not like it, but accept it because it's coming. That train's a coming. And I said on Twitter yesterday, I said, you know why I'm not worried about AI? Because I'm not working for these major corporations, and I don't care to. I'm now working on IP that is owned by other people, you know, independently, and I'm working on my own IP. And you know why I will never have to worry about AI? Because I will always write my book, and I will always hire artists like Renzo Rodriguez to draw my book. So AI means nothing to me. I'm not afraid of it, but they're all terrified because they know that they cannot bet on themselves, and they know that up against AI in like 2-3 years, it's going to be better than them.
Honestly,
well, AI would produce a better idea than Girlpool.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, I mean, the one thing I will say about Girlpool is I'm surprised it took this long. They were setting that up back in the Marvel Now era. I'm legitimately shocked that it took them this long when they introduced that character that nobody liked, and they made her the Deadpool of 2099 in back during the I think it was the Jerry Duggan run. They introduced that character and they made her a future Deadpool there. I'm like, oh great. But then they never followed through on it. So I'm like, oh, maybe they actually, I don't know, realized how fucking retarded it was. But no, I was just off by 10 years.
Optimistic of you, Doc.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dylan. So you're the youngest man on this panel here. You're more apt to probably accept AI as more of a tool than a tool for plagiarism. Are you excited about AI-only comic books where you have a computer spitting out ideas and then illustrating itself and acting like it's a comic book?
Not really. None of that gets me excited at all. But also, it can't really be any worse than Girl pulling Spider Girl, to be honest.
No. Oh, yeah. It'll have better ideas at least.
My question is, do we really have anything to fear with AI when we already have that artist from
Skynet, the Matrix.
Hold on. No,
Terrible
I mean, for the comics industry. For the comics industry, does it really have anything to fear from AI when we have whoever the fuck that is that's drawing the Phoenix book, that's just copying other artists anyway, like literally tracing them? Is it really that big of a change?
You're probably going to get more emotion
to sentience.
You're probably going to get more emotion out of an AI written comic book than you will a Stephanie Phillips written comic book. That's really the rub, and I think that's what everybody's afraid of is like if you work in corporate comics, if you don't own your own IP, these corporations are going to stab you in the back and that they're going to use AI as soon as they can to cut you out. That's what everybody's really afraid of, and that's so why aren't they going after the corporations? And honestly, all these comic creators going online and like trying to lecture Colin Kaepernick. That guy has already been in so many firestorms of controversy with many, many more people coming at him. You think that like 20 to 30 comic pros on Twitter are going to be able to shame this guy into not doing this initiative? It's
the man
ridiculous.
has no shame already. So
it's like you're not gonna convince him. The money's already there. It's already happening, and this will probably just be another big nothing burger. Like remember when everybody was freaking out about NFTs? Every comics pro was losing their mind about NFTs. What are NFTs doing right now? This AI,
Nothing.
It is going to replace some jobs, but much like Photoshop did, much like the automobile industry did when it came in and replaced the horse and buggy, it's going to create a lot of new jobs. You just don't want to learn to code. You just don't want to learn a new job, but you may have to.
But all right. So who's been a more destructive force to comics, AI or Greg Land?
Porn face never hurt nobody.
Hey, yeah.
I will say this. Honestly speaking, I bet you we're already reading a lot of AI-assisted scripts anyway.
I know Stephanie Phillips.
Whatever, if you want to say that name specifically, I guarantee you it's more than that are working at Marvel and DC that are having AI help them with scripts or maybe even doing the scripting themselves. And we know that they've already published pages and specifically covers with AI art on them anyway.
I mean, if you're reading any of those Black Ops books, and I don't think anybody's reading them. I think they're just buying them for the porn covers. But those are all ChatGPT assisted, I believe.
I don't think ChatGPT does the art though.
No, it doesn't do the art, but I guarantee.
Oh, I'm talking about the scripts. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in there. It's in the articles that you read decrying AI. The summaries are written by AI. Like I'm telling, like it's everywhere. And I understand why everybody's upset. I really do. But you're not going to change it. So what you need to do is instead of spinning your wheels crying about it, is you need to start looking at it and saying, this is an inevitability. So how do I figure out how to coexist with this thing that I cannot stop?
You be better than it. And honestly, it really doesn't take a lot to be more creative than AI. At least at this stage, or probably in the next few years, it does not take that much to be more creative than AI that has no creativity. It's just able to
It's mimicking.
mimic
Yeah.
other things.
It cannot
has,
imagine.
No, it cannot generate any new ideas itself. That's not already loaded into the prompts. It can Frankenstein a bunch of other ideas together, but it can't imagine anything new. That's how these people are afraid of something that literally can't imagine anything new,
Well,
because
neither can they,
also
largely.
can't. Yes, because they can't imagine anything new, and that thing is free and they cost money.
Well,
I'm
but here's
sorry,
the
I
other part
stepped
of
on
it
your
that-
thesis, Doc. I didn't realize that's where you were going.
All
Well, but
right.
here's the other part of it too, that it's unfortunate. It's a hard truth, but it is a truth, because if we're talking about, we keep looking at it from the creative side of how we get the comics together. The survivability of the industry depends on the other side, which is, what do the customers want? What do readers want to pay for? And the hard truth of that is, and I know a lot of people are not going to like it, and I'm not saying this to be mean, but it is the absolute truth, is most readers do not care.
No,
They do not care who penciled. They do not care who inked. They do, unless they're a collector. Like, I have to have everything from Jonathan Lau. I'm just throwing a name out there. They don't care who's the flatterer. They don't care who did the letters. They don't care about any of that. All they care about is that it looks cool. If you
Yeah.
can make it look cool, that's all they care about.
I was going to say, people care if it's Riley Rossmo, because then it looks
Well,
like
yeah.
shit.
Nobody likes Twinkle
All
Toes.
right.
Well, and I think that people are avoiding kind of like the thinking about the ways that AI could actually be kind of cool. Is, imagine if Frank Miller could take all of his work and scan it into the computer, and then have the AI learn from him. And Frank can't draw at the level that he used to anymore.
No, he cannot.
But what if Frank could take all of his own artwork and then generate art through AI that is his art, like it learned from his art and
His
is
style.
drawing things in his peak style? He could keep
Yeah.
creating comic books. So there's ways that these tools can be beneficial. It's
Yeah,
just,
but if he wants to do that, he has to make his own AI that's like his, that doesn't share the information, because once you enter in your artwork and have it scan and be a part of the system, everyone has access to it that's using that AI.
well, anybody can take it off of all of the public displays anyway and do that. So that's
Well, they're not supposed to. It's actually was
No, but
Terms of
Supreme
use.
Court.
yeah, but
Yeah,
but that's going to
what-
change. You can't own AI generated artwork, but you will
You
be
cannot.
able
You
to own
cannot
an
copyright
AI.
it.
You will be able to copyright a book with AI generated artwork.
We'll see. All right,
if it's-
fellas.
yeah.
Let's hear it for the peoples. I'll be talking about AI on the channel here. I didn't realize it was going to be such a storm of controversy. I thought everyone was ignoring it like me. Brad Frederick, the entire Up and Away story is collected in the Kurt Busiek Book 1 hardcover. There you go. So it's got the Jeff Johns side of it too. I was unaware of that. But that is very cool. Cal Lyle, Kevin Feige doesn't want creative people because you hear the stories about the constant interfering and redos over and over.
Well, in
Too much
fairness,
executive meddling.
One of the reasons, I think, one of the reasons why he went to hire so many literal no names for Phase 4 was
And 5?
because and 5 is because they didn't have any, I guess, career cachet to stand against editorial or studio interference. I mean, really, is that chick that made Eternals gonna really be able to stand up and say no? You
Her name's
can't
Chloe
change.
Zhao.
Yeah, whoever that chick was.
Yeah,
you think
was
she really-
Nia DaCosta on Captain Marvel going to be able to realize her vision of what the movie should be? No, of course not.
No. All those people were brought in for the simple goal of executing studio mandates.
And for the
Should've hired an
the
AI.
ability for
AI.
the studio to tout their checkboxes.
Yeah,
Yeah. It looks like they're maybe getting back to good creative people. Hopefully, Tommy Review says Up and Away is getting a deluxe edition, Dylan.
Nice. About time. I
Is
didn't
this
know
true?
that.
Because I have not heard that.
I haven't heard about it either.
Because if it is true, I'm going to have to message my good friend Yul Carter and maybe see if I can set something up where you can mail that bad boy to me because I need it in my collection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It goes right into the library. Would love that. But you would rather have an absolute edition.
Yes, I love the absolute editions. That would be so cool. I wish we had just a gigantic absolute edition of that.
Absolute
Breen.
format is easily the best format.
Yep.
Yeah, but you need a podium to read it.
That's fine. It's no problem.
Not really.
A 32-pound comic book.
Once you take it out of the slipcase, it's actually really easy, and you can't read it in the slipcase.
Caleb says Feige wants Brie Larson. Also, the current actors in Marvel are a joke. Majors admitted he went to clown school to play Kang.
I mean,
a lot of people do weird stuff to get in character or learn new facets of themselves. I don't think going to clown school makes them a clown. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I just remember, like, I laughed because it made me think of Carrie Brownstein on the first episode of Portlandia, where he's explaining to her how you go to Portland and just whatever you want to do. Like, you remember when you went to clown school, you could do that. You could be a clown. She's like, I haven't thought about clowning since college. Yeah, no, I mean, look, if you watched him in the end of that Loki episode, because you and I watched that whole season, clearly he was doing like a lot of weird improv and weird, like, kind of clowny stuff, and because he was trying to portray a guy who had been alone for so long that he had just completely lost his mind, and it was weird, but I think it was effective enough. So, I mean, I think that I don't think there's anything wrong with pulling from a bunch of different influences. Obviously, as an actor, you're going to want to take improv classes so that you're quick off the cuff. You're going to want to learn, you're going to want to learn your craft. And I think that, going to clown school could possibly, give you some physicality and things like that you could bring in. I'm not going to dismiss it. But the problem is, I don't think the actors are a joke. I think that the scripts have been a joke. I think that the direction has been a joke. And I think that the studio interference has turned these things into jokes. And they hired all these Rick and Morty writers to whom everything is a joke. So why would you take the Marvel Universe seriously? Your writers aren't taking it seriously. Kang wasn't taken seriously. He was beaten by ants after being built up to this big threat.
Was very good, though, as of late. Not nearly as good, obviously, as phase 1 through 3, where they nailed almost everything.
Yeah, no, because they started leaning into the, we need to diversify our casting. And so they started, doing race swaps. They said, whereas the first phases were, when you saw Chris Hemsworth as Thor, you're like, that dude looks like Thor. When you saw Chris Evans as Captain America, you were like, oh, he looks like Captain America. Tony Stark looks like Tony Stark. We were getting those sorts of things. T'Challa looks like T'Challa. And then we started getting into, Namor is Mexican. All right, sure.
Namor. Yeah.
Namor.
Not only that, I mean, the first few phases, they adhered. It was like this weird reversal of roles. So you had all the early comic book movies that deviated a lot from the comics and were sort of successful, but the success was very, very fleeting and went down the hill real quick. Marvel, however, came in and decided we're going to adhere really hard to the comics and ended up with a lot of success. But then Marvel started doing this thing where they decided that the comics were going to deviate from the comics. And now they're picking, and that failed in the comics. And now they're trying to do they're trying to apply the same, we're going to adhere to the comics, but we're going to adhere to the comics that deviated from the comics, and then wonder why that's not successful. It's this weird, like, role reversal where they switched their own product just so they could still adhere to the product that they changed from what it was successful as. It's fucking goofy.
That is a good way to explain it. Galichioki.
Yeah.
What happened to firings? We already know Jim Lee isn't firing anybody because he's a twink. Why don't the higher ups fire people with their competence? I don't think he's not. Come on, man. I wasn't expecting that. You're normally serious.
Come on, Jim Lee. Jim Lee's an otter.
Man, he's road. He's retired on active duty. He's trying to make it to that final thing. I don't think people are going to get fired.
No, and
I mean, I know Jim Lee has fired people, though.
He's just weak.
Blackballed.
He's just a weak man. He's not a leader. He shouldn't be in that position. Fantastic artist. You know, I loved Wildstorm. I'm with Doc like that. Those early Wildstorm books, man, those were my jam. But you know, again, just somebody who was promoted beyond their level of effectiveness, and he doesn't care.
Jim was always good at finding other people.
Jim is a silver fox.
He was good at finding other people to run business while he focused on the things that he wanted to do. The problem is or new art ideas and new characters and stuff like that. And that's how he was able to successfully run Wildstorm, by not actually running Wildstorm, by letting somebody else run it. And the problem is he's now been put into a position where his job is to run it. And he's like, but I was good at running a company that I didn't have to run. I don't understand this idea of running a company that I have to run. And that's why we're in the position we are. He can't outsource. Being the owner of something and being the manager of something are two very, very different roles. Jim was never a good manager, but he was a pretty good owner.
There is a disconnect too, that like when you are managing something and it's not yours, and even if you go in with a lot of passion and fire and then you're told no a bunch of times, eventually you just get to the point where you're like, well, I'm just here to execute company policy. You know, there's no point in trying. I mean, we've all kind of like run up against that in various companies. And for me, that's when it's time to move on. But you know, when you're making the kind of money that Jim's making, you just ride it out.
Yeah, but there's also that, but I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I was going to say, I mean, but there's also that aspect of, if you think about who's above Jim Lee and then who's below Jim Lee, I highly doubt that anybody that Jim Lee reports to cares about the nitty gritty of the monthly comics and the details and who's hiring. So from my perspective, it's all Jim Lee. It all rolls up to him. He has the authority to do whatever he wants to do within whatever corporate mandates and budgetary restrictions he has. So if we're going to look at, you know, what's the quality of the book, and is he being a corporate stooge? I mean, yeah, sure, to an extent, but ultimately, if you look at the day-to-day operations, it's all him. He has all the keys to the kingdom to do whatever he wants. So if everybody's dissatisfied with what DC is doing, as I am, it's Jim Lee that has the power to change it or the power to let it go on. And so,
in this case, I agree with you. Yeah, no,
if there's somebody to blame, it's
DC.
Lee. Mm-hmm. And by all accounts, his heart has always been with Marvel. So I'm wondering if he's just treading water, waiting for a more senior position at Marvel to open up, and maybe he jumps ship or something like that.
Waiting for CB to choke on an egg roll.
Yeah. Maybe.
Remember when we complained that Joe Quesada was terrible because he wasn't Jim Shooter, and we complained about Dan Didio because he wasn't Paul Levitz? Thanos memes, perhaps I treated you too harshly. Isn't that what happened, Dylan? Like, maybe we weren't fair to Dan Didio. Sure, he was greenlighting some bad ideas, but he sure tried to keep the best creators around.
Yeah, he tried to keep them around. It seemed like he actually had some ideas.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was really loud.
You're right, Breen. You need a lozenge.
Yes. So was his coming.
The badness came right out of him. But yeah, it seemed like he had plans, at least, like he was managing, and I think that's really what's absent. So I'm sorry, Dan Didio. If you want to come on, I'll apologize to you.
He tried things, you know. That's the thing, is Dan Didio tried things. And like when I was talking to him at San Diego this weekend, he goes, you know, my defense on everything is it seemed like a good idea at the time, you know, but in retrospect, some things worked, some things didn't.
That was my 20s in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Dan Didio. I mean, he was, in my opinion, he was completely wrongheaded about Wally West. He was completely wrongheaded about Nightwing and just his attitudes towards those characters. Yeah, and all those and Bendis and everything else. But at least you at least got the impression he was in charge, and that he was trying to do things. Yeah, 5G was a non-starter, and everybody could see that from a mile away and all that other stuff. But at least he was there doing things. Right now, if I look at DC and say, is Jim Lee doing something? Is Marie Javins doing something? No, you haven't heard from either of them for a long time on anything of substance about what they're doing with the company, and that's the big failing right there.
Brady, I know you're more of a Marvel guy. Joe Quesada, he came in and really changed Marvel's fortunes and had one of the better eras in Marvel Comics history. but he certainly fell out of favor. Were you thinking CB Cebulski was going to be the winning formula when he took over?
Well, to Quesada for a second, I do give him credit for when he was at Marvel Knights, that was fine. When he took over everything and gave us basically House of M through, I don't know, Fear itself, I actually enjoyed it through Siege. I thought that was there were people written out of character, sure, but there were good plots. They had a vision, they stuck to it. So I'll always give him credit for that, even though he completely destroyed Spider-Man. But by the time Cebulski got there, I'd already been out of Marvel for years, because the first time they started the all new, all different, the Marvel Now and stuff like that, when they touted the X-Men book that was all women and clothed from head to toe as that being the selling point, I knew that was a huge red flag, and I just kind of drifted away. And I said, Cebulski, no, I had hoped for about a minute until Akira Yash, whatever the hell his pen name was, when he had to fall on his sword for that. And that's it.
They neutered him right out of the gate. That was
Yeah.
an industry scheme right there. Is that Cebulski came in? What did he do right away? He did things that made sense, like he canceled Cena Grace's Iceman. This isn't selling. Anything that wasn't like a lot of those titles that weren't moving, he was cutting them. And so what they did is they cut his legs out from under him right away. They got together in their little cabal and they relaunched those Akira Yoshida accusations, and they neutered him out of the gate. And so he's never been effective since.
Well, that's the thing, that there's a network that is more powerful than the companies themselves, and they keep everything. It's like, we got some nice, nasty, what was that Daredevil issue? We got a nice, nasty little town here, and we aim to keep it that way. That's the big two.
Mm-hmm.
I said that what I mentioned before about Peter and Mary Jane, about Ms. Marvel. Whoever it is that makes the decisions is never going to allow that, even though they know it would be a huge benefit to the company. And
the
I'm
industry
sure
is really still controlled by people who are not at those companies. And that's really the ridiculous thing. It's just this little cabal of people who don't get work, but sit and snipe and run their little schemes and, do their little whisper network, backroom nonsense. And everybody's afraid of them. And until you stand up and you just, like you just are the Rock meme and you're just like, shut up, bitch. Until you guys start doing that, until you guys stop living in terror of people who have no actual power over you, except for social media power, which is now gone.
Well, you can have a news article with information go out, and that can cost you your job. That's real power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but you know what? You just have to be prepared for that. Like, I hear that they're gunning for Scott Snyder again because this Absolute Universe, looks like it's going to get him some attention again. So I hear that the attacks on him are coming around again. And even though I'm not a huge fan of what it looks like he's going to do, and I'm not a huge fan of Scott Snyder in general, I think that he's also very weak. When he gets attacked, when they come for him, we will defend him because that's the right thing to do.
Well, the one thing as it pertains to comics, there's a statement. I think it's Clay Travis says, "What's the point of having FU money if you never say FU?" Problem is, that's the reason why Elon Musk is as successful as he is, because he's uncancelable. He's bigger than some of the giants that could come after him. And it's in comics.
J.K. Rowling as well. J.K. Rowling,
right. We have one person that comes close to fitting that bill in comics, and that's Mark Millar. And his, I said, whereas I wished he would have made a phone call and said, "Hey, you published the Alex DeCampi book. I'm going to take my stuff somewhere else." That would have been cool. But you take what you can get.
That's tortious interference, though. Like that becomes its own problem.
Well, but that gets you the head writing position at a major comic book company.
Yeah. I mean, you can ask Mark Waid about that.
I realize Mark Millar is bigger than that now, but like I said, so there's
no. Mark Waid said he's a fading star, burning out across the sky. That's what Mark. Waid
said. Mark Waid says a lot of stupid things. Fortunately, I don't read him anymore because I don't know. But I said that it'd be nice if we had more people like Mark Millar that would just tell them all to go after themselves. I'm going to be curious to see how long Ghost Machine can keep the barbarians from the gates. Because I said the first time I hear new title written by Kelly Thompson, Yeah, that's when you hopefully we don't get that, but
There are a number of people. There's only a handful of people in the world that have fuck you money and the testicular fortitude to actually say fuck you. Elon Musk's one of them. I mean, honestly, Donald Trump's one of them. Mark Miller in comics is one of them. Most people just don't have a spine, and they think that because they end up with rich guilt, which is I feel guilty because I was successful and all these other people are less successful than me. And we've had social pressures for that for decades now. So all those people, any person that's like that, you'll notice that they make a certain segment of the population, or in, say in comics, irrationally angry.
oh yeah.
I mean, Rich Johnston and his irrational hatred of Mark Miller because Mark doesn't give a shit. He can't be controlled by him. That's what you have. You have the people that get irrationally angry at creators or anyone in the world. It's because they operate from we can persuade you and make you do things, except for this guy. This guy we can't control, and but you don't have that in leadership positions at any of these companies.
The Calico, shout out to Thinking Critical team. Indies dominating. Sigma Comics is the best-selling indie title on the convention circuit. We sold 257 pounds of comic book at Comic-Con. Our first trade hits Kickstarter in 2 weeks. Subscribe to our new YouTube channel and support Thinking Critical now and always. And thank you very much for the very generous support to HH and the team at Here Comes the Calico.
By my math, that should be a little over 350, close to about 350 comics.
It was very nice. When you finally make it, Aaron, and you'll start measuring the amount of comic books you sold by poundage instead of unit, you got there, Aaron.
I'm an idiot. I just realized I forgot to go see TC at Comic-Con. I got so turned around. I forgot. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You didn't
man.
go see Here Comes the Calico?
Or HH. I'm sorry, Cheese, because he said I'm
TC.
HH. Yeah.
Thanks.
I forgot to go see HH, and oh man, I feel bad. New York. I'm going
to New York Comic-Con?
I'm going to New York Comic-Con. Yeah.
Are you doing a road trip?
Yep. Drew and I will have something very special. We're gonna have a preview book.
Who's driving? Is it going to be MVP?
No, we're gonna fly, man. Come on.
I said road trip. Road trip means you're driving.
Well, I mean, we'll be on
class?
the road from the airport to the convention.
Probably 5 days between California and New York.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Not unless you can stop at each weird lizard farm along the way, and all the this place has Jesse James trigger finger on display, and you're like,
the world's largest ball of twine.
Yes,
the geographical center of the United States.
I would go on a road trip with MVP any day of the week. I think he'd be a great snuggle buddy. That he'd have great stories for the road. Probably has good taste in restaurants.
We had a good time going to Vegas for the Nerdrotic meetup. That's only a 2-3 hour drive. But we had a good time. Max is
definitely cool if you're at your con, there's a better than 50% chance the HH and the guys from Sigma Comics are going to be there with their own booth selling Here Comes the Calico, and you should definitely check it out. Congratulations. Definitely be looking for the Kickstarter in 2 weeks. It's going to be awesome, and definitely check out the YouTube channel and see what these guys are doing, because HH is somebody that will get you excited for comic books. He knows how to sell. So congratulations, and thank you very much. A common sense CB won't make changes because Alyssa Wong blackmailed him. Now CB is spineless. Mr. Breen, I do wish you and Wes do retrospective on Bart Allen the Flash. Man. He did come off as very spineless by hiring the lady that called him a racist.
Yeah. Well, it was the final kowtow to these folks. It was the final signal of, yes, you own me, and I cannot and will not ever really defend myself. You own me. You can pressure me into anything. It was the final notice of that.
All you
You
have
don't
to
think
do
it was
is
an
come
owning?
out-
It's like, you can say whatever you want, but you work for me now, bitch.
God no.
No,
God no. It was
No.
a complete
Man,
complete kowtow, and all you really have to say is, when they come out and they say, oh, you're a racist, or you're this, or you're that, or whatever name they call you, all you have to say is, well, I just reject your thesis, and then ignore them from that point forward. That's the only statement you ever need to make is, well, you're wrong, and then you just don't engage ever again, and you let them scream into the void.
or
Well,
you
if
say
you-
yes.
But if your
am.
hypothesis is that Alyssa Wong made CB Cebulski spineless, I would disagrry. I would say if he was
He was
spineless
already
before, he was already spineless. And that
She just exposed it.
yeah, she just exposed it, and that again rolls up to why is Dan Buckley hiring EICs who are spineless, and so therefore Dan Buckley's not doing a good job either.
That is 100% true. Breen, what are your thoughts on Impulse Bart Allen? I'm personally a big fan.
I like the Impulse series. I remember he had like a 5-minute run as the Flash in like 2007. Wasn't that the one that the girl from the OC's dad wrote or something? But I don't really have I don't have enough memory. I don't own the book,
Plus,
so
the good Impulse stuff is Mark Waid, and I'm
Yeah.
not really about promoting the Mark Waid life.
yeah.
You know
That's
I mean?
what I was going to say.
But
All that stuff was.
I do
Mark
like
Waid.
Impulse as a character. He's great. A Flash with ADD? Yes. It works out for me. Kalichi Oki, it's proven that the message doesn't work and will never work. How much money do you have to lose to realize that? Their insanity will continue their suffering. It does get really old, Dylan. So I know you used to cover comic books a lot more, but it gets really tiresome, doesn't it?
Yeah, going in circles is what it feels like. Just doing the
Yes.
same thing over and over and over again, like we just talked about with what they're doing with Girlpool, where it's just, why are we doing this? Why are we going in the same circle that didn't work before? It doesn't make any sense. But they're going to keep doing it. I don't know what's going to stop them, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, Doc. So we need to say goodbye.
Yes, sir.
You're bouncing out. You're going to the, what is it? The Taste Freeze?
Uh,
The local ice cream place, right?
no, we're going out to do a little bit more celebration for the girlfriend's birthday.
Man, it's
So.
2-day. Going to a concert or something. Nice.
Yep.
All right, buddy.
So, yep, got a dip. So I am just going to recommend one thing this week. I'm going to recommend you go and find yourself a copy of Giant Sized X-Men. This is back when they knew how to introduce new characters that people would like to read. Also, because apparently one of the variants for the Gail Simone Uncanny X-Men is another homage of this, except for with the gay X-Men, because they're going to be like all gay
There you go.
on all the 6 new characters that they're introducing to it after they bait and switch you in with giving you Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Jubilee. So I'm going to recommend you go and buy this because this is good and that is not.
Very nice. And I recommend you, Doc, wish your old lady a happy birthday
Will do, sir.
on the team here.
I will. And you all have a wonderful week. See
Very
you.
nice.
Oh,
Later, brother. Caleb says it's not just activism they care about, it's what they want to screw. A lot of that.
yeah, it also goes to the companies themselves. This is how you know that they're 100% on board with this. When Axel Alonso was at Marvel, regardless of what his personal politics or beliefs were, he helped steer Marvel into the all new, all different, all unreadable era. But then when he went to co-found, was it
AWA?
Yeah.
all of a sudden, all that was gone. And it was about telling the best stories you could find, hiring the best artists, the best writers you could afford. And they've produced some really good stuff. So it's, the problem, as I said, it's, you get to one of those companies, even if it's almost like you're getting into Congress. You win your first selection, all these great ideals, and then you just become part of the machine.
Mhm.
And your biggest priority is getting reelected because, damn, the perks are sweet. So
Yeah, you get to insider trade. You get all kinds of bonuses. It's great. But that, Breen, you hit on something that I think is really important. And even if you get into these industries and you've been in them for a long time, like let's say you're a C.B. Cebulski or you're a Tom Brevoort, you get into the bubble and you surround yourself with people that you work with for years and years and years. And so that perspective becomes your reality. And if you never bring in anybody new, anybody from the outside, anybody with different ideas, that's another reason that these companies get stale. It's not always just activism. Sometimes it's just downright out of touch incompetence. So you need to continually bring in fresh blood with new ideas, new writers, new executives, people who are coming in and like they haven't been in that bubble for all that time, to kind of like keep things going and keep things refreshing. And right now we've just got like stale leadership that's been locked in there forever and is just riding out to the golden parachute.
Well, the sad thing is you might need new voices, but you don't even need new ideas. The ideas that they've gotten away from, so many people would like to see come back. Like I said, it's because there's a whole generation of, you can been reading Spider-Man for 15 years now and have never read Peter and Mary Jane Married. Now I realize, now we know that the audience they want doesn't want any of this stuff, because the other people in charge don't. They want the audience that would rather, be as obsessed with identity politics as they are. But you just give people back some of the stuff they've taken from them in the last 10, 15 years. You would get the audience back, but it's not the audience they want. So what was it? Dylan said something about going in circles. I'm going in circles right now, just telling the obvious.
You need to find a new audience, but you get your audience that you have, and then that audience always would spread the gospel of what you were doing. They would basically become your John the Baptist for the comic book industry. How many people did each one of us get into comic books? Because you were excited about it. That's how you build. You work with what you have and you give them things that they like, and then they go out and they tell other people, hey, comics are cool. You should read this.
Well,
and then those people come in and then they tell their friends. Word of mouth is very powerful, especially when people get invested in these universes. Unfortunately, there's nothing to invest in anymore.
Well, in my case, it was very few, because in my youth, that was the quickest way to get a wedgie and shoved into a locker. So I had to stay in the closets.
I could always fight.
Your point.
We're a despicable era.
Yeah, I could always fight, so I just always wore my hobbies on my sleeve.
Yeah, but there's a little bit something extra to that, because if you were strong enough to get yourself out of that locker and fight to maintain your hobby, those are the people that really allowed their passion to bubble up into going into comics and doing those kinds of things. You try to put the current crop of writers in a room and tell them to fight it out, they'd pass out from exhaustion within 30 seconds. You got to have toughness, and there is no toughness in the comics industry right now.
But like I said, unfortunately, in the late 70s, it's not something you wanted to broadcast.
Yeah.
Because I had all
That's
the cool
true.
friends, but I wonder how many of them I would have still had they known I was reading funny books. So it wasn't worth finding out.
Right, but you stuck with it because your passion for it was stronger than the social pressure.
Oh yeah, and absolutely.
All right,
There's a
we got to
mental
get to
toughness.
the NFT question.
Yeah. Oh, you
Like,
want
we're
the
getting to the end of the show here, fellas. Cal wants to know, what's an NFT? An NFT is a non-fungible token. It is a way that you can take an image that you've created and you can attach like a crypto element to it that will make it very unique. And you could release digital comics, attach NFTs to them, and you'll be able to verify that they are the unique digital comic that's only for you, and then you can kind of sell it and stuff like that. I think everybody thought NFTs were going to be like the digital collectible, and they probably still will be. But at this point, Gabe, like NFT faded out once they realized it was like how many people want collectibles on a thumb drive?
Look, so so NFT is basically a digital asset, like a picture where you can prove that you own it. That's
Yes.
really all it is. The problem that you have with the industry is people started buying up all kinds of ridiculous things that were NFTs that have no intrinsic value. It is the digital equivalent of those Elvis collectible plates that your grandmother would buy and put in a shelf or cabinet. You bought them specifically for the purpose of being a collectible because you thought they'd be worth something in the future. And they're not. Those Elvis plates are a dime a dozen now and nobody cares. NFTs are doing the exact same thing. They're fading out because who wants a picture of a drunk monkey? Nobody cares about that. People bought it because it was thought it would be cool and collectible and they would have intrinsic value in the future. But because it has no inherent value, nobody cares. So it could be the NFT concept could be adapted for digital rights management or for securing documentation and ensuring privacy and legal contracts. That's a much boring but probably more practical extension of that technology. But for people who are like selling things back and forth as collectibles, that market is dwindling faster than a candle being hit by a blowtorch. It's just
the dumbest NFT I saw was John Cena delivering a leg drop, and you got the NFT of like the scene. they did it for that and the Undertaker and a bunch of other stuff, but it's proven to be like the .com bubble.
Yeah,
like
there's
got
no
way too fast and it burst.
Right. There's no value in owning an NFT other than for the person who bought it.
Unless somebody wants to buy it from you.
Yeah. So
that's what makes things collectible is you have to have somebody else who wants it.
Right.
Yes.
So what you have is an entire market of people who got bamboozled and is spending a lot of money for something that ultimately nobody will want because they thought somebody would want it in the future.
Dion, Wes, I agree with your takes on Tom King's awful Batman run, but I would also add that Morrison's run is bad too. He wrote some bad fan fiction about Talia, and he brought back the dumb Zur-En-Arrh stuff. And I 100% agree with this, Dylan. I think Morrison's Batman run is garbage, while his Batman and Robin run is really good.
Batman and Robin stuff is really good. His Batman stuff was hit or miss for me. There was some stuff I liked with it, but then there was a lot of really dumb stuff.
I hate that
I agree with the Talia stuff. Yeah.
I hate Joker cutting his tongue in half. I hated that whole.
I like the Tony Daniel stuff though. It looked cool. I like Tony. Daniel.
I did not. I've never liked Tony Daniel. I don't know why. Just
you don't like Tony Daniel? What?
Never liked it.
It was weird.
Nope. Something about his art. Like it's fine. It's fine.
Tony Daniel's great. He's like probably the best part of that.
I mean, he's definitely the best part of that. Yeah. No, it just doesn't do anything for me.
There's a lot of Grant Morrison stuff that doesn't do anything for me. And for some reason, like all of the modern writers today are completely, almost uniformly informed by Grant Morrison's take on whatever it is that they're doing. If they're writing X-Men, they're basing it on Grant Morrison's new X-Men, which is basically a bad copy of Claremont's X-Men. If they're writing Batman, they're basing it on Grant Morrison's Batman take, which is an awful take on the character. And it's basically turning him into contingency man or Batman, Bat-God, all this stupid lore to it. And it's really frustrating because you can see it throughout all these writers, Gabe. I'm sure you notice it. All the fucking Grant Morrison influence. It's too much.
Well, yeah, and it's a the law of diminishing returns because you have Morrison was trying to do a bad version of Claremont, and then for some reason that caught on with a subset of the reading audience, and then you have everybody trying to do a really bad take on Tom King, which isn't that great to begin with, in my opinion. And they're just doing it worse. So you have all these. It's funny. We started off the conversation with people talking about how AI is copying legitimate work from other people, and then they're losing out on it. But within the writing sphere of comics, you have the same thing. You have writers doing a poor copy of other writers, doing a poor copy of other writers. I mean, you pick up any script out of DC this week, and it is the equivalent of somebody, getting that sixth finger on their image when they're trying to generate something out of Midjourney, as an example. It's ridiculous. There's the best thing and the worst thing that ever happened to comics are when Alan Moore and Frank Miller did their seminal works in the 80s, and then everybody's been trying to chase them ever since. And then you can add Claremont to that with the X-Men. Is because everybody's trying to chase them. They're just doing versions of it, but they're much less good. And as with each new generation, they're getting less and less good. And I wish people
Yeah.
would just stop trying to ape what was done in the past and just try to be themselves. I hate that this sounds terrible.
It's something
Something
Mark
true.
Miller is talked
Be yourself.
about. He studied like the life cycle of comic books, and every 20 years, essentially somebody comes along with an original idea that changes the game.
Yep.
And people build off of that to hit an apex, and then it goes down as everyone has been copying it for too long, and it gets boring, and then someone new comes with an idea that blows stuff up again. You know, obviously, Alan Moore and Frank Miller being one of those big upturns. And we're actually like 4 years behind on whatever was supposed to happen for the next upturn, presumably maybe because of the COVID shutdowns and stuff. But
And that's
we are
the
due for
tragedy of it.
something original.
We're overdue for something original, and the tragedy of us is this is the talking point that's come up many times before. Is the industry is gate kept by all the wrong people, and so the rise or the emergence of somebody this generation's Alan Moore or Frank Miller is very much behind schedule because they're probably there, but they're being gate kept because we have editors who don't know how to find talent, editors who are hiring all the wrong people, and then people, when they start to do maybe something a little bit interesting, they're constantly being attacked and shut down like crabs in the bucket. That whole scenario. This generation's Alan Moore is probably sitting right there, and he or she is either being passed by,
Contemplating leaving and going to video
or they're
games.
contemplating leaving because they can't make any headway because the industry does not prioritize and reward talent. They don't reward industry. They don't reward imagination and creativity. They just reward people following orders and churning out junk. And we're missing
nice.
out.
Jose the Beast, this is an Aaron Sparrow comment if I've ever heard one. Hear me out. DC needs a Scott Steiner as EIC to light a fire underneath creators' feet while they write mediocre comics. Examples: Tom King and Kelly Thompson need the Scott Steiner treatment.
They definitely do. They need someone to come out and cut that promo on them. They need, I think that if Scott Steiner were in charge of Marvel, I think that it would have a 50-50 chance of success. But then you look at DC and you look at how poor DC's doing. So that automatically adds another 50%, which gives Scott Steiner 100%. But then what you got to do is you got to count in Image, which, now you only have, I can't do Steiner math. I'm sorry. Nobody can duplicate that man. He is a treasure.
But what he could do is get his nephew to just get all the people at Marvel and DC, just have his nephew just come charging in and just wipe them all out. I do get a kick out of that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic. And I'll just say this, Steiner's greatest promo for me remains after beating up Diamond Dallas Page, telling him, so while you're in the hospital on your back, screaming in pain, your wife's on her back, screaming my name. And I was just like, oh my God. And apparently that wasn't an approved promo, and it led to an actual fight in the back, which Diamond Dallas Page lost because Scott Steiner is a genetic freak.
Yeah. And I hate to sound like a broken record about this, but especially with the creators that are in that super chat, it really comes down to the creators are fine. Talk about the creators, but it really comes down to the strong leadership. I'll give you an example. I'm not particularly happy with Josh Williamson at DC. I don't think he's done anything that's been particularly good. All the events he architected were junk. DC on Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths and Lazarus, this, that, and the other thing. And then, Dark Knights of Terror, whatever that thing was, all garbage. But you bring him over to Skybound and you put him on that Duke book, it was actually pretty darn good because Robert Kirkman and Skybound are not going to let a bad book come out of their shop. And if you have a creator that's willing to respond to that strong leadership, you're going to do okay. Kelly Thompson, on the other hand,
how much interference does Josh Williamson have at DC versus Skybound? Like, how much of his actual, how much is actually him, and how much is we need to take this and we need to build it out into this event. You have this idea for the story, want to build it out into this event. So then it just becomes stretched way too thin, and the premise was never intended to be that. That's a possibility as well.
That's a possibility. But then when you bring him over to Skybound, he actually did okay. He's doing okay over at Skybound, which means that the leadership is allowing him to do what he wants to do and also providing the feedback and the guidance to make sure that he puts out something that's great. On the other hand, you take somebody like Kelly Thompson. She was at Marvel, nothing. You bring her over to DC, she writes Birds of Prey. That book is garbage. And then you bring her over to Skybound. Lord help me, I have no idea how that happened. You put her on Scarlet, and it's just, it's
Ben
completely-
Abernathy is how that happened. I
Yeah,
believe.
Ben Abernathy is how that happened. And again, so you have these creators that you have to put them with strong leadership to sometimes to get that work out of them, because if you leave them alone, they're just not going to do a good job on their own. It's just not going to happen.
I don't think strong leadership can help Kelly Thompson. Honestly,
I don't know. I don't think
because
anything
it's
can
just
help
the
Kelly
same
Thompson.
thing. It's the same thing over and over again. I mean, she did okay on Mr. and Mrs. X. I didn't hate that. But I don't know what the anomaly there was, because consistently she just kind of writes the same garbage over and over again. And Scarlet is exactly the same thing that when they announced her, I was like, I know what we're gonna get, and then I read Scarlet 1 and 2, and that's exactly what I expected we would get.
Scarlet's
it's,
just generic spycraft, and is probably interchangeable with Black Widow because she had some experience writing Black Widow.
And she doesn't care about Scarlet. She doesn't care about G.I. Joe. She never once mentioned anything about G.I. Joe before she got the gig. You can go through her Twitter timeline. She never talked about it. You talk about things that people have written. Like, I was talking about Yuri Han and Street Fighter on my Twitter long before I ever got to write a Yuri Han story. And part of the reason that I think people like it is because I actually care about the characters. And I actually, I only had 4 pages, but I still tried to tell a fun story.
But I think you're right. I don't think it's an accident Kelly Thompson showed up at Skybound right after Ben Abernathy got that job over there.
People
Absolutely
hire
not.
their friends, whether they're good or not.
Galichioki, about the Whisper Network, is there any hint of truth to the people they snipe, or are they mostly false allegations? If false and wrongly fired, can't you take legal action against them?
They don't have any money.
Well,
So
yeah,
there's
and
no
you can
point.
take a lot of things that happen and twist them and make them present as something that's much more nefarious than they really are.
Look,
And
the
plus they,
Mags
like,
tried to
Gather all
get
this stuff.
Yeah, they gather it and they sit on it and then they blow it out of proportion, or they like Wes said, they twist it. In the case of Ed Piskor, obviously there were false allegations that they came out and they started calling him a racist and saying he had this Twitter account that it wasn't his. They started that sort of thing. So yeah, there's false allegations built on top of blowing things out of proportion, and then just weird things. Like, remember, Mags went after Scott Snyder trying to say that he or was it Mags? But
No,
The love
people
bombs.
were mad, but it was
being
It
forced
was
to do
Daniel
emotional
Warren.
labor when you talked
oh
to.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
him. Yes.
Yeah, and like,
Yeah.
what is that? So, when he calls me, he talks about his personal problems. That's called a guy thinking you're his friend.
Well-
he's forcing me to do emotional labor. Shut up. It's like you try to create an accusation out of something that is completely innocuous.
Well, maybe Max had never had a real friend before.
Certainly a likely possibility.
But they collect all this information. They like kind of work behind the scenes, and they're just waiting until they can use you. And if you don't go along with the thing, then they go out there and they try to take you out. Because people are so susceptible to public pressure and especially social media pressure that you don't really have to have proof anymore to ruin someone's life. You can just do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, fortunately, sometimes it doesn't work, as in the case of Sean Gordon Murphy with the Mag stuff. But I think Mag's is basically blackballed from both companies at this point.
The love bombing.
Yes. Mr. DC, Wolverine costume exploding to save Deadpool was too funny. Also, will Hugh Jackman return as Wolverine in the Secret Wars movies one last time?
It's possible.
They're already going to be paying Robert Downey Jr. $40 million for his salary. I imagine Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, even as a cameo, is pretty expensive.
Apparently the Russos are up there too, as far as what they're getting paid. So
Yeah.
you're already looking at a movie before it shoots coming in at, like, just on the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr. alone, between 60 and 80 million per movie, already in that budget. That's going to be
So
rough.
I imagine they'll try to do it, but he probably won't play a big role because he would probably command like $20 million or something.
That could be the scenario where he would show up for maybe a small role or a small cameo with the intention of handing over the mantle over to X-23. And
That'd be
then
fun.
have her carry that role forward as the new Wolverine.
Imagine Daphne Keane is much cheaper.
Yes.
But I don't think this is the last time we've seen Wolverine in the MCU from Hugh Jackman. It's been far too popular. They made some money, and they will likely have to hit that slot machine again. Because I do think they have some very hard times ahead before they even get to Doomsday, because you do have Captain America, you do have Thunderbolts, you do have Fantastic Four, you do have Blade. There's another one in there that I'm forgetting, and they've all essentially been trouble productions. Other than Fantastic Four, which nobody had a positive response, or most people didn't have a positive response to the casting. So they're probably going to have to do the nostalgia bait a couple more times. Next up, Baja Cat. Even without the activism, comics would still suck because they prioritize gimmicks pushed by relics like Jim Lee instead of prioritizing fresh ideas from new emerging creators. Their current talent just doesn't have any. Yeah, I mean, that is 100% true, Breen, because if you look at a lot of comic books, they're not almost even presented as entertainment to read anymore. They're presented as collectibles. There are some companies that you can tell they don't even care what's inside the pages. And in a lot of cases, I don't get that feeling from Marvel or DC either. Now, certainly there are some exceptions out there, but a lot of things I think are just there to deliver a variant cover.
Yeah, there's some reasons for that. Something Gabe was mentioning about the 20-year thing that the next big thing is out there. The problem is when you think of all the things that have happened, like Claremont's X-Men, Alan Moore's Watchmen, Miller's Dark Knight, what they all have in common, they were produced at the Big Two, which at one point was the place to land. Well, now everybody's worried about creator owned, and rightfully so, but anybody with those ideas is not going to take them to Marvel and DC. And if they did, they may get squeezed out by the Whisper Network. So yeah, at this point, there's nothing left but to gimmick up variant covers. For two reasons. One, you can't pirate. There's no sense in pirating a variant cover. So it's one of the few ways you can still get people to buy things. And it's also a kind of a way to temporarily disguise a lack of substance inside the covers, which, to your point, most people don't even open anymore.
And also in the past, the reason that there's been seismic changes in the industry as far as direction and the way that they were doing things is because they admitted they were wrong. They're like, wow, this really didn't work. We need to do something completely different, and new ideas would come in. They haven't admitted they were wrong in a long time. I think they just kind of ride it.
No, if current Marvel leadership had been at Marvel 26, 27 years ago, Ben Reilly would still be Spider-Man. Remember when they wanted to do that, but the fans pushed back so hard that the
Clone Saga,
they reversed course and changed it back. But then to tell you how far it's changed since then, the outcry for Peter and Mary Jane has fallen on deaf ears for 17 years now.
And it's never stopped.
No, but it's never going to come back either.
And they screwed up. They screwed up the Ben Reilly thing even when they brought Peter back the way that, because fans were like, well, we didn't want you to kill Ben Reilly. We would have been much happier if you depowered him and Peter had a brother figure that he could go to. And you could have gotten some really good stories out of that, but they just didn't see any way out. So we just melted him into a puddle of goo, and Peter's the real Spider-Man. It's like, even when they course correct, they do it poorly.
So I noticed that Baja Cat had a cat avatar, but I didn't realize just how amazing it was. I love it.
Yeah, it's Grumpy Cat.
Yes. It should be my avatar.
Rest in peace, Grumpy Cat.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think there's any room for fresh ideas. But it's not just comic books. You look at movies. Outside of Christopher Nolan and probably Quentin Tarantino, nobody's making new ideas in movies either. It's just retreads and reboots and relaunches and sequels and prequels to stuff that already exists or was popular 30 years ago. So it's just a weird era of just an entertainment where nobody wants to take risks. They only want to spend money on things that they know will succeed. And how do you know
they can't make
that
them succeed?
Comic book will succeed? Well, I can get somebody to buy the same issue 8 times if I put enough covers out.
Well, and also
that'll make it succeed.
There are still some fresh ideas out there, but the difference between now and then is they're not being produced at Marvel and DC.
Yeah, they're not investing in them. They have to do them outside.
Yeah, and like it or not, ideas not from the Big Two will never get as big as something from the Big Two, with the one notable exception of The Walking Dead. And how big would that have gotten if it hadn't become an unbelievably successful television show? I mean, there's like I said, the Millar books are all really good. The stuff at Ghost Machine, but if you look, they're very rarely do any of them even crack the top 10 because they're being outsold by garbage tier Marvel and DC, because that's just what people know, what little of it's left. And so you're fighting for scraps at this point, and the industry is never going to be big enough again to let somebody. I don't think there can ever be another Walking Dead at this point.
The Garth
Jose-
Knight has a great point. He says it's cultural stagnation. The younger generation hasn't been taught to create, but to reiterate. And that's what we've been talking about on the channel for a long time, is you've got people with no life experience writing these books.
Yep.
Well, you see a lot of younger kids are starting to like experience life through TikTok, through other people experiencing life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Social media was a mistake.
Yeah. Jose the Beast, there needs to be a change with leadership at Marvel and DC. At 18 years old, the Marines taught me accountability. Chats me to see creators not adapt or improve. I'm with you, man. Like,
And since Max isn't here, I will give you a Semper Fi, Marine.
yeah, it's like even in the Air Force, like you're working for the government, so it's not like the most efficient thing in the world. But you're always like, this is what you have. You will make the best of it, and this is what the end goal is going to be. And if you didn't do it, like you're sitting in a room explaining why it didn't happen. And if it's your fault, it's like, okay, we're going to take a break from it, or we're going to put you on mop duty for a month or something like that. There was real accountability. And I was like 18 years old, like Jose the Beast here. It's like, why are we not holding 35 and 40-year-olds accountable? It makes no sense. Dylan, are you held accountable at your job? Do people expect you to work?
Yeah, sadly, I wish they didn't, but yeah, I have to show up, have to work. You know, it'd be nicer if I could be like some of these writers and just not do anything or be successful and fail upwards. That'd be cool. I'd appreciate that.
After night terrors, this is what we would have done in the military, you know, because we do exercise and stuff like that, or you do an operation. You would have brought in all the major writers, the editors, the marketing team. You would have got together and say, why did this fail so spectacularly? Where did we go wrong? What could we actually learn? And what are the first 3 things that we have to change right now to never let it happen again? And you can tell that never happened. There was never an even consideration of what happened.
So you're saying they should bring in Mark Waid and say, like, why don't you sell anymore? Is it because the industry largely, all the readership thinks that you are a colossal asshole?
Well, Josh Williams is the one that did Night Terrors, but I get what you're saying. He did
No, but I'm
also
jumping ahead.
before that.
I'm jumping ahead to the current book. That's
You would have a meeting and you'd say these 3 things have to change. You know, marketing dropped the ball because this didn't work. We need to do it this way. You know, we didn't communicate, you know, during the process, and there was no oversight by this person. Now you're going to be responsible for it. You would put all these new layers of responsibility to ensure that it didn't happen again. But in fairness, in the military, lives are on the line, so I guess it's a little more serious. But that's the way I think about things. I'm with you, Jose the Beast. It's frustrating. Finally, we have Eric O'Sullivan. Sully himself, thank you all for your messages and good energy at this time. I'm blessed and grateful to be part of this community. Excelsior.
We're blessed to have you, Sully.
Absolutely. Sully's going through a very hard time, and definitely appreciate all the thoughts and prayers and good vibes and all those things that you're sending out to Sully and his family going through the passing of his mother this week. Really sad stuff. And certainly Sully will be back here on the channel once he's worked out all the stuff, and we'll be talking comic books again. But we certainly love Eric and all that he brings here to the Think Critical community. And definitely my heart's breaking with you, brother. So really appreciate that. And I guess we're on to comic book recommendations. It's time to talk about the best stuff this week. Aaron Sparrow, did you read any comic books this week?
I got nothing to suggest this week. Nothing.
It is one of those weeks. DC put out 3 books. One of them was a serious book. Marvel was almost terrible across the board outside of Ultimate Spider-Man, and there weren't even good indie books, really. So it was a tough week.
And I've checked out of Ultimate Spider-Man. So I guess what I'll recommend is I'll just say Planet Doom, or Kit Carter Planet Doom is getting ready to fulfill. Aaron Lopresti just got in the last of the colored pages. So if you guys want a fun space romp with a sexy heroine, go check out Kit Carter Planet Doom. You can still back it.
Very nice. Definitely check that one out. Now, Dylan, not only are you a comic book nerd, you're a video game nerd, but you're also an MMA nerd. This weekend, we got Corey Sandhagen taking on Khabib's cousin.
Yep. Yeah, that'll be fun. It's in Abu Dhabi though, so Sandhagen needs to finish. Otherwise, it's going to be rigged, and he's not going to get the decision. But I'm rooting for Sandhagen.
Sandhagen's not much of a finisher, though.
No, he generally only finishes old men. but he's good. I think he can do it. I think he can, because this guy is really good that he's facing.
undefeated.
He's one of those guys that hasn't faced anyone though, so it's hard to tell how good he really is because Sanhagen's his first real test. So
would you recommend people check this out? Is it worth it? Is it a pay-per-view? Is it something you get on ESPN Plus or whatever?
it's just a fight night. It's something you get on ESPN Plus. So yeah, main event's definitely worth checking out. Sanhagen's always fun to watch, so this should be a good fight.
How's the rest of the card? Or anything else worth watching?
Rest of the card's okay. It's not great.
It's a one card fight. Yeah,
Pretty
one
much.
fight card. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
There you go. So definitely be looking for Dylan to give you a play-by-play on social medias for UFC Fight Night. Do you have any recommendations for Comic Plus?
This week there's Ultimate Spider-Man. That was it. But I will say I just picked up the Absolute Superman from Jeff Johns, Gary Frank. It is ginormous. It is beautiful. It is great. You get to see all that beautiful Gary Frank art in this gigantic format because it's like it's just went on sale on Amazon now because the list price is $150, but now it's $84, so it's a lot cheaper now. So if you're looking to pick that up, go pick it up. It's great. Look.
Very nice. You got anything else that people need to know about on the channel or any of your streaming stuff?
Yeah, just always working on videos right now. I'm working on some stuff that'll hopefully be out soon. But yeah, I just have my video I just came out with just recommending the best comics that are currently coming out each month. So check that out.
Definitely check that out. Have you been reading Nottingham now that it's come back for its third volume?
I read it in trade, so I'm waiting for the next trade to come out. But I've read
There
the
you
first
go.
2 trades, and I really enjoy Nottingham.
That's a good series. I know, Gabe, you're a huge fan of Nottingham as well.
Yes. Is it my turn? It's my turn.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Got
Great.
Any recommendations?
That was
Sure.
the segue. The segue.
That-
There's a
that was the
Nottingham
segue?
this week.
Ooh.
Number 14,
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. If we're looking for recommendations, I've got 4 and 5th as a recommend go do. So yeah, when it comes to indies, Nottingham number 14 just came out this week. It's a banger. It's basically King Richard and Hood siege on Nottingham, and it's just like all out crazy back and forth drama, action, fights, what have you. It's sort of like it's like the attack on Helm's Deep. It's that kind of storytelling right there. So it's pretty big, and there's only 2 issues left in the maxi series. So that's not even the penultimate issue, and it's already pretty darn good. Also for Image, I'm going to recommend Spawn number 355 because some intriguing developments come up related to the outcome of the Heaven-Hell War and Nyx taking the throne in Hell. So if you're up on Spawn and want to find out what's the fallout and how is this all going to change the world, this is a good issue that gives
Brett
you lots
Booth's
of great
art.
teasers. Yeah, big stuff. On Marvel, yeah, I am going to recommend Ultimate Spider-Man number 7. It didn't have big wow moments, but it did a lot of things right. You get some action, you get some heart, you get some character development, you get some world building. So even though it didn't like blow me away, I think this is my favorite Ultimate Spider-Man issue so far because Hickman tends to get lost in his world building a little too much without actually doing something with the plot. This one kind of gets it back on track, so it was solid. And then on the DC side, I'm going to recommend Absolute Power Task Force 7 number 3, simply because it's Jeremy Adams, who really can't seem to turn out a terrible comic. And it felt like a tie-in that mattered to the main event because some things happen in there that could relate to what the outcome of the Absolute Power event as just a final, how are these characters going to change and how are they going to impact the finale? And then last but not least, My Hero Academia, chapter number 430. That's the end of the series. It's coming to an end, folks. So if you're a My Hero Academia fan, if you're a manga reader, and you love that series because it's pretty much the archetype of what U.S. superhero comics used to be and should be today, but manga is still doing it better. Number 430 is the end of the series. So if you want to know what's coming up with My Hero Academia and what does that mean for Deku and everybody else, get ready for that chapter if you haven't read it yet. And that's my great. Shameless plug. Comical Opinions, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out all our socials as always at Comical Opinions. Please subscribe. We'd love to have you along. And also check out our Marvel and DC reviews at Weird Science Marvel Comics and Weird Science DC Comics. Thank you very much.
So a lot of people are looking for indie comic book coverage, and you specialize on that with Comical Opinions on the YouTube channel. How many reviews are you putting out every week now?
For the indie stuff, it depends on the week, but probably say 10 to 12.
There you go. 10
range.
to 12 indie comic book reviews on YouTube. If you're looking for that stuff, because a lot of people are asking for it, definitely go check out Comical Opinions because Gabe has got you.
If not a video review, we at least put a community note with the written reviews as well. So you can't go wrong either way.
Very nice. Cobbett Set says Marvel Boy by Morrison. Do a comparative Midas. I'm not sure.
Can I
what
just
that means.
compliment? Can I just compliment Gabe this week on not being sus?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Gabe's always sus.
That's because it's the annuals week. It's an annuals week.
So people call you just sus Gabe now.
Yeah, unfortunately. Thank you, Jim.
Like
for
not
good
even in
science.
the thinking critical sphere.
I was on a live stream a few weeks ago. No, I wasn't on it. I was just like, watching it, and I saw comments go back and forth, and something came up. It was like Weird Science came up, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Weird Science is great, especially Sus Gabe." And this was like scrolling through the chat. I was lurking. I wasn't even participating. I was like, "What the hell? Really?"
I'm just waiting for your kids to start calling you sus Gabe
Oh,
or
no,
sus
no.
dad.
No, pass on that.
Very nice. Last but not least, we do have Eric Breen. Glad to have you back. Were you reading anything this week? Anything worth recommending?
Yeah, I actually can recommend Ultimate Spider-Man 7, and actually, I was buying the Jim DeMatteis Spider-Man Shadow of the Green Goblin. It was actually pretty good.
I do have a recommendation. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
go
not,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, Breen.
Oh,
No, keep
if
talking,
I'm
but I
going to
do
be
have
cut, if I'm going to be cut off, who better to be cut off than the walking ray of sunshine that you are.
That's not what he meant. You look at his
Sparrow is
face.
a jerk. No, I'm just gonna say there is a book that I completely forgot about because I actually got it last week. Is Final Fight #1 is out by Udon.
From Udon.
So
Yep.
Matt Moylan is adapting the video game with some beautiful Matt Weldon art. So if you remember that '90s video game beat 'em up with Cody, Hagar, and Guy fighting, their way through Metro City against the Mad Gear gang, you're getting a kick-ass comic, based on that. So definitely go check that out.
Yeah, it's a guy I do a lot of YouTube stuff with. Had that on our Best of the Week show and showed off some of that. It was nice.
That issue is a pristine example of somebody adapting a video game faithfully.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my off the beaten path recommendation is a book called Sanction.
Yep.
From Mad Cave.
Yep.
Yeah, it's basically a murder mystery that the police give to a sad sack detective, figuring he has no chance of solving it, and he lucks into a huge lead, and it keeps getting bigger, and now it's to the point where they may need to do something about the poor guy that they assigned to it, because he may just solve it after all, and the higher ups don't want that. It's right now Mad Cave has this, Dick Tracy and Flash Gordon, and next week, since I won't be on next week, I'm going to pre-recommend, and I hope it's Kosher Mafia, because
that came out this week.
Well, we're not getting it until next week. I guess
Yeah.
depending on distribution. And if I'm not mistaken, it's by the guy that does Nottingham.
Yes, it's by David Hazan, and
David Hazan,
it was pretty good. The first issue was
Good,
pretty
because I just saw that I saw the title and said, this looks interesting. When I saw it was Mad Cave, so they're hot right now. I mean, the three of my favorite books are coming out from Mad Cave, and Joe's not doing any of them.
Yeah, Kosher
What are the
Mafia is
other
about.
ones?
Yeah, Kosher
Dick
Mafia is
Tracy
about the
and
rise
Flash
of
Gordon.
Kosher Mafia is about the rise of Jewish gangsters during World War II in the United States, and it was a pretty gripping crime thriller. Also, if you like Flash Gordon, Mad Cave is coming out with the Defenders of the Galaxy series,
Yes.
which combines Flash Gordon, the Phantom, and Mandrake the Magician. I think something like that. Yeah.
One final question from Common Saints. Gabe, can video game comics get people into shops?
On their own, probably not. The difference is in this case, and with probably most things, it's all about advertising promotion. Matt Moylan's doing a great job getting his stuff out there to the best of his ability, but he needs a broader reach. He needs to find some way to get on a megaphone, like a really big megaphone, to tell people, hey, we did Final Fight, we did Street Fighter, we've got all the Street Fighter stuff, we've got, I think he did Darkstalkers, I think, something like that. So he's got all those Capcom titles at his disposal to make some really great visually, artistically great visual adaptations of these comic books that are pretty faithful. But he needs ground root support and people to spread the word about his stuff out there. So check what's their social. It's Udon ENT, short for entertainment.
Mhm.
And then check out his stuff. And then if you see things pop up, he's got Kickstarters and all that kind of stuff going on all the time. Get the word out. So people who like comics that are video game adaptations, then go talk to your LCS and say, hey, I want you to pull, reserve that for me. Put it in my pull box. Get a copy for me, and they'll make it happen. This stuff is not going to happen just by, adopting a title. It's the marketing that the industry continually falls short on. Aaron, I think, is a good example of somebody who's constantly putting his word out there. Now, most people don't follow Aaron because they shouldn't, because he's a jerk. But but the idea, but promote. You get these. You can't be a creator that's doing indie stuff and be a wallflower. That just doesn't work. You got to promote your stuff because nobody's going to do it for you. So you got to promote. And I think Udon's got a good shot if they can get more people to promote for them and with them.
I'll tell you what you guys can do to help is if you want these things to be successful, aside from everything that Gabe said, when you see that there's like a Final Fight book or a Street Fighter book or something like that, tag all of the video game YouTubers that you can find, and make sure and just spam the hell out of them and make sure that they know that these books exist, because these guys have large video game channels. They talk about Capcom stuff. They talk about video games. They talk about all these narratives. I made sure to tag Matt McMuscles in the when I retweeted Matt, because he's a big Capcom fan. And, if he talks about it on his show, it'll get a lot of eyes on it. It'll get a lot of attention. So, you guys really do have the power to get the word out. Just any time that any of us that you want to support is putting out something that you think people should see, send it out to people that you think would be interested, who have larger platforms.
Very nice. I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining me. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend as we're inching closer to the start of the NFL season and really the beginning of the good part of the year. So I will see you all next weekend and should have some fun. I don't want to leave. I want to end the stream.